My name is Blake. If you have no idea who I am, then don't worry. You won't need to know anything about my past to read this, and if you want to skip the intro bullshit, feel free to skip ahead. Here's what's funny about life-changing experiences. It's really fucking tough to go back to normal. After I left Infected Town for the final time, I returned to San Francisco to find I no longer had a job, an apartment, or almost any friends. I wasn't particularly surprised, of course. I'd been gone for nearly 3 years. My bank account was okay, and I managed to track down some of the stuff that my landlord hadn't sold. But I was broke, jobless, and sleeping out of the old pickup truck for a solid month there. I took the opportunity to cut ties and make a fresh start in my new town. So it worked out okay for me. But I guess what I'm saying is, if I had a criminal record, no college degree, or even fewer bucks in the bank, I would have been futterly ucked. They never mention that. At the end of the adventure books, when the hero beats the big bad and begins his journey home, they never show the fallout when he actually gets there. Not that I'm a goddamn hero. You get my drift. Once I settled down and find gainful employment, I tried to live a normal life. Get up, coffee and a cigarette, go to work, come home, smoke a joint, fall asleep. Wash, rinse, repeat. No friends, no Claire, no family. Yeah. I had an apartment and a job and money. It sucked. Didn't enjoy the stability. I thought a lot about the town, the mold, the monsters. Even kinda longed for them. At least when I was there, with Liz. I was never bored. Possessed, terrified, amazed, sure. Sometimes all three, but I was never fucking bored. Barely lasted 2 weeks before I started looking for freelance work online. I have a degree in graphic design. I quit my job almost as soon as I found any. Broke my lease, bought an RV. I've never looked back. Money's tight. Sometimes I can't sleep from the nightmares. I get lonely every so often, but I'm happier now than I've ever been. Even before Infected Town. I'm on the road a lot. When I can't sleep, I just drive. When I'm not hunched over my laptop working, I'm on the hunt. See, that's the thing. Infected Town haunts me. The mold and the creatures and the entity. They were so real I forgot at times that they were supernatural. And it got me thinking, what else is out there? And how prevalent are they? These creatures we don't understand, how much magic is in this world? That question plagues me. Forums like No Sleep are all well and good, but you can tell stories for hours. I want to live the stories. Call it an itch, an addiction, whatever. It's what drives me, because I think that if I don't use what the entity did to us to get stronger, it will end up killing me. Listen to me. Waxing dramatic. Obnoxious. What I came here to say is the hunt is proving fruitful. I started with Craigslist posts in my area, different websites. Usually my message was the same. Tell me your story, no matter how absurd. Show me what you got. I'll listen. I'll believe you. The local response was impressive, so I branched out to the not-so-local. I get hits almost every day when people experience the unexplainable. They want to talk about it, and I figure you guys might want to hear about it. A couple months ago, I was contacted by a paranormal research group called the Institute for Higher Knowledge, which does pretty much what I do, but with a lot more money behind it. They offered to pay my gas and lodging bills if I helped them keep up to date on what I find. No strings attached. Like a field agent or something, but I'm not actually employed there. Anyway, that's when I started making transcripts, making this shit official and all that. Whenever possible, I travel to where these people live and talk to them in person, and I always try to visit the scene of the incident. Got files on a lot of the shit that I've explored, and really interesting ones. I call them cases, like I'm some sort of hot shit paranormal detective. I'm not. There's no fucking detective work on here, trust me, but I have been all over the country. Met dozens of people. I don't always record them, but I hear a lot of stories, and yes, some of them are your run-of-the-mill ghost, demon, Sasquatch, alien yarns, maybe even most of them. Those are great, don't get me wrong. But they're not the stories I'm here to tell you. I'm here to tell you. The weird ones. Note, this will probably always stick with me because it was the first real abnormal one. This also marks my first time transcribing recorded interviews, so the style might get a little bit fucked. I used initials. Mine are BE. Case number 4, The Hole. Location, Seattle, Washington. Date, December 20th, 2016. Witness name, Sam D. All last names are omitted for privacy. The relationship to the case, the tenant of the building of apartment 108 contacted me about this one on Craigslist. We're sitting in Sam's tiny living room nursing cold beers. Like most of the building, this room is dim and dusty. Even with the curtains thrown wide and every bulb illuminated, it feels like we just can't get enough light in here. Sam lights a cigarette, offers me one, which I accept. He's tall and skinny. Peaky complexion and long, greasy hair. His eyes are a little wild. His hands shake as they cup the lighter to his lips. He inhales the first drag of his cigarette with a deep and satisfied drawl of a man who would gladly embrace the more meager of comforts. I say nothing, waiting for him to start. I've learned over the past few months that if you just wait, people almost always talk to fill the silence.
So I guess it started, I'd say maybe half a year ago? Maybe 6 months? Don't really know though. I mean, but I think the first time I heard anything about it was around the 4th of July. Natalie, she's on floor 3. You should talk to her too. She's the one that invited me down there. I think she found it first. Her or Maggie. They're real close. So, but anyway, one of them found it. And then Nat told me, and then I think it just kinda spread through the building. Everyone knows everyone. There's only a dozen or so apartments, and it's pretty tight-knit. So now most of us go down there every day.
Every day?
Well, yeah, man. You got something like this in your own building? You're gonna want to visit it every chance you get. We got a wonder of the world down there.
So just... Can you describe it? You said it was...
A hole. Yeah, it's a big old hole. It's in the basement. Fucking mysterious. No one knows where it came from.
Like, could it be an old well or something, or a sinkhole? I hear those...
No, man. No way. Its shape is totally wrong. It's like... You'll see it. More like, you know those sewer grates in the sidewalk? Kind of that shape and size, but without the grate over it. Rectangular, very straight, even lines.
Weird.
I know. The sides look like they're concrete, water-stained. Maybe have some moss or something growing on them. So maybe it was a well or something. But that's... I don't know. That's pretty fucking unlikely. Excuse my French.
No, speak as much French as you want.
Thanks, man. Anyway, we measured it one time. 8 feet long, 4 feet wide. Corners are perfect 90-degree angles. And as for how deep? No way to tell, right? I mean, we've tried. We started with just tossing like pebbles and shit down there. They'd plink against the walls, but then they'd just get swallowed up. It's so fucking dark down there, man. You throw a rock or something like a big fucking stone, you know? But as soon as it falls the first 5 or 10 feet, you can't see it anymore. It's just like whoosh and it's gone. Swallowed up. Almost like there's liquid or water or something down there. But there's not. We've hung ropes with buckets and everything, but nope, it's just empty air. Just empty darkness. It's fucking weird, man. It's cool though. So we tried to figure out how deep it was a couple times. Started with like throwing bigger shit down there. Bigger rocks and shit from the garden. We never heard anything hit bottom. Then my buddy Marty had the idea to bring his kid's toy. This big light up keyboard thing. Where if you press a button on it, it played a nursery rhyme song. It was his kid's favorite toy. I feel kinda bad about that. But we had to know. We had to like gather data, you know? So we switch on the keyboard to like one of those demo tracks and it lights up and starts playing and we toss it down the hole. And dude, trust me, it was so weird. So I said, how's it really fucking dark down there? Well, we could see the toy's light blinking on and off for a few seconds. But once it went maybe about 50 feet, they completely disappeared. We probably should have still been able to see the lights, but nope. It's like there's a threshold where all light is just fucking swallowed up. Or maybe the tunnel curves, I don't know. Maybe there's science behind it. Anyway, the really weird part is, we could hear the song kept playing as it fell. Fucking Ode to Joy, it never stopped. That fucker played the whole song for way too long. It got pretty quiet and echoey near the end. I guess because of how far away it was. But that keyboard never hit bottom. We probably even could have heard it if it kept playing, but the song ended. The piano was pretty big, too. Like, maybe this long across?
Sam shows me a space about 2 feet between his hands.
It would have made a huge crash when it hit bottom, but we never heard anything. I don't know, man. That shit is really fucking cool to me. After that, we tried with a rock tied to some fishing wire. We measured something like 1,000 meters before we ran out.
1,000?
Right? That's like 10 football fields. Fucking crazy. No bottom. We've dropped a bunch of shit in there. Tied shit to ropes. I wanted to try with a video camera next, but then Maggie put a stop to that. She won't let us drop anything down there anymore. Says it's... Anyway, she says it's not right.
What's not right? Throwing things down a hole?
Never mind, man. She's protective is all.
Protective?
Forget I said anything, man. It wasn't just Maggie anyways. Dropping shit down there could be dangerous for other reasons.
Like?
Well, I mean, this thing is cool. And I don't think it's, like, unsafe or whatever. But I don't know, man. Ever since we threw the keyboard down there, me and Marty have been, hearing it.
Hearing what?
Fucking Ode to Joy, Joyful, joyful, we adore you, la da 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 da.
Song the keyboard was playing.
Yeah, like specifically the song the keyboard was playing. Exactly. It sounds just like it did when we tossed it down there. The tinny fake keyboard demo music. It's weird. It started by... I heard it first in my dreams that night, playing kind of soft in the background. Woke up with it in my head. It's stuck in my head all the time now. I dream that song a lot. But then a couple of weeks later, I was taking a shower and, over the noise of the water, I thought I heard it. Fucking Ode to Joy. Like it was coming from the pipes, maybe. I got down on my hands and knees, put my ear to the drain. It was really distant, kind of garbled. But it was there. Since then, I've been hearing it in all kinds of white noise. Fans, running water, It's really distant, almost too quiet to hear. Almost seems like it could be my imagination, but, Marty hears it too. And now other people are hearing it. In the shower, over the sound of traffic,
Jesus.
Yeah. So that's why we don't throw things down there anymore. Especially like, I don't know how to describe it. Maggie calls them activate objects. Things that make noise, stuff with batteries, also phones, cameras, nothing with personal stuff, books. She says personality could be a problem, whatever that means.
Huh.
Yeah, she's kind of confusing sometimes. But you'd be smart to listen to Maggie. The whole building knows that. Lady knows her shit.
Can I speak to her? I mean, you said that she's the one who found it, right? I'd like to hear about it.
Her or Nat, yeah. They found it. Yeah, let me text her.
I'm curious, have you guys told anyone about this? This seems like something that would get media attention, or you think the city would be interested. Doesn't Seattle have a shitload of underground tunnels? Could this be something to do with those? This building is old.
No, well, I mean, a couple of us talked to the property manager, Jim C. He went down to look at it, but he said he'd handle it on his end, but we haven't heard anything about it since then. That was maybe a couple months ago.
Huh.
Yeah, it's for the best, though. None of us want a bunch of reporters swarming around here. It's too special for all that shit,
I guess.
You'll understand when you see it. Oh.
On that note, would now be a good time to head down there for my first viewing?
Well, maybe not tonight. I didn't mean tonight.
Oh, you sure? I gotta see this shit for myself.
No, I know.
Isn't that why you invited me here?
No, it's totally is just... Maybe not tonight.
Well, could I talk to Maggie then? And
No, she's not. I gotta talk to her first. She won't talk to you.
Why?
Why? She's weird, man. I don't know. I'll talk to her. Just give me till tomorrow. Trust me, dude. I'll get you down there.
Or we could just go right now. It's only one floor down, right?
No! Fuck. Sorry. No, we can't. It'd be disrespectful.
How is it?
Disrespectful to Maggie. To the building. Trust me. You go down there now, you're gonna get the cops called on your ass for trespassing. Just let me talk to Maggie and we can go see it tomorrow, okay?
Okay. Yeah, no, I understand. No disrespect meant.
I know that, man. I know that.
Sam suddenly seems eager to have me gone, so I leave shortly thereafter. I didn't even finish my beer. I consider going downstairs to find the hole myself. There are a few people in the lobby. It isn't blatant. They look like they're just loitering around, but I have a feeling that I'll be stopped if I approach the basement door. Date, December 21st, 2016. Sam's ghosting me today. He won't answer my calls or my texts. So much for getting to see the damn thing makes me wonder what he was hiding. Why he needs all this extra time. I've avoided any crazies so far, besides that lady in LA who was convinced her gothy neighbors were devil worshippers. So maybe old Sam is going to be the first. But hey, benefit of the doubt and all that. I'll talk to the manager of the building. He lives off-site, and Sam mentions that he's seen the hole too. Interview 2. Witness name Jim C. Relationship to case. The landlord and building manager since 2006. Jim C. receives me in his office in downtown Seattle. He's probably in his 60s, thin and wiry, with mean blue eyes. When I ask, he tells me in a brisk and, harassed kind of way, that his company manages 5 different sites around the city. Then he demands to know if I'm a journalist or something. He relaxes when I say I'm not, but now he's even more suspicious. He doesn't want to be recorded. I record him anyway.
So can we wrap this up if you're not here to inquire about rentals?
I'm interested in the building.
What about it?
Well, I talked to your tenant, Sam D, about some kind of old well in the basement.
Oh, Jesus, not you too. If I hear one more word about that goddamn hole, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind.
Okay, some of your tenants have been complaining about it.
Complaining? I fucking wish. They talk about that hole of theirs like it's the lost fucking city of Atlantis. For the first couple of weeks, I got a few of them asking if it was a construction project or something. No, I says to them, no construction going on in that building, far as I'm aware of. Better not be anyway. Finally, it got so bad, I took a trip over there to check it out myself. Those people... that building is full of fucking loonies. Every single one of them. I mean, what are the odds of that? You fill 14 different apartments with 14 different families, and everything seems normal. For years, some of them, you think you got lucky. You think they're pretty good tenants. But it turns out all of them are fucking crazy.
I don't know. This hole or whatever it is. I mean, you have to admit, it's pretty interesting. I can kind of see why they're excited about it.
Have you been down to that basement, son?
No, not yet.
That explains it. There's no fucking hole there.
Sorry, what?
That's right. There's nothing there. I've checked. It's just, you go through that door off the laundry room, there's just an empty, half-finished basement. There's no goddamn hole. There's never been any goddamn hole. But you ask any tenant in that building, they'll insist there is. They'll insist it showed up 6 months ago, just appeared out of nowhere. They'll try to show it to you. 20-odd people. Every single one of them with the same story. Even the kids. Fucking crazies.
Okay. So, what is this? Some kind of group delusion?
Whatever it is, and before you ask, it's not carbon monoxide, lead poisoning, or mold. I had that place inspected months ago. It's an old building, but it's safe.
And these people, you knew them before?
Oh, sure. Some of them quite well.
And they seem, mentally healthy. Mentally all there.
I never noticed anything off. Sure, 1 or 2 of them have always been a little rough around the edges, but they're good people. Good tenants. The lady in 306 is a second-grade teacher, for Christ's sakes, and a couple of them are students at the U. It's not a building you'd expect to turn into an insane asylum.
Huh. Well, I wonder. I'm cut off by the shrill ring of my cell phone. Shit, sorry. I fumble it out of my pocket and go to end the call when I see the contact name. Sam D. Shit. I gotta take this. I rise out of my seat, already heading towards the door. Thanks for your time. Jim waves me off, turning back to his work. I answer Sam's call as I'm pushing through the building's glass door. Hello? Hey, Sam. I'm glad you... No, I'm just on... Oh, shit. She does? Yeah, no, I can't... Give me 10 minutes. I'm on my way. Interview 3. Witness name Maggie M, Natalie W, Sam D. Relationship to case. Tenants of the building. Apartments 309, 306, and 108 respectively. Maggie M has offered to hold the interview in her living room. I don't know why I'm surprised. The way Sam talked about her, I expected someone hermetic or at least unsocial. But Maggie is the gorgeous woman of around 35. Vivacious, with fiery red hair. She laughs loudly, curses often, and smokes like a chimney. Also present is Natalie W., who Sam tells me first showed him the hole. Slightly younger, slightly quieter, and far more serious than the other girl, but perfectly pleasant nonetheless. Maggie's hand rests casually on her knee throughout our conversation, so I assume they're an item. Sam's here too. He hovers around behind the couch the women are seated in, looking down and restless. I have to wonder if there's some recreational drug use going on here, maybe meth. If what Jim C said is true, maybe this whole damn building's on something. We end up talking casually for over an hour before the hole is even discussed. Maggie is charisma personified. If not for the fact that she's clearly taken, I'd be tempted to make a move. I forget completely why I'm here. I enjoy myself. And then Sam says this.
Oh shit. Were we gonna show Blake the basement?
The mood shifts. Maggie's laugh trails off as she turns to give Sam a look that I can't catch. Natalie leans forward, clearly excited.
Yeah, what do you say, Mags?
Maggie turns to regard me solemnly, thoughtfully for a moment. I feel unaccountably nervous, like I'm waiting for an interview or a stay of execution. You could hear the muffled clink of my fingernails in this recording as I tap it restlessly against my glass. Finally, Maggie's mouth splits with a wide grin and I relax. My sigh is embarrassingly audible. She winks at me.
How about it, handsome? Think you're ready for it?
Think it's about goddamn time. Nat and Maggie burst into laughter, which on tape sounds a lot more like cackling than it did at the time.
Yeah, I think so too. You seem alright.
We start to move as a group towards the door, starting the long hall down to the basement. I keep asking questions and recording for the duration of the journey. You guys are pretty selective with who you choose to show this thing to, huh?
People are narrow-minded and selfish. We'd do best to keep it out of the hands of those who would use its power to do harm. You can't be too careful.
Hold up, I'm sorry, Maggie. No disrespect, but I mean, we're talking about a hole here, right? I agree, it's weird, some kind of anomaly, but what power could it possibly have?
What a question.
You'll understand when you see it, Blake.
Yeah.
They always do.
Well, looking forward to it, I guess. How'd you find this thing anyway?
Natalie found it.
Oh yeah? What happened?
I was doing my laundry in the basement, like I've done 1,000 times. I've lived here 4 years. Nothing even close to this has ever happened to me. I had no idea our building is special.
Maybe that's part of it. The way it took you by surprise. Maybe that's how you know it's a real miracle.
I think so. It must be.
So you were doing your laundry?
Yes, there's a door down there. You'll see it. It leads to an unfinished portion of the basement. I guess a storage space? It's right across from the washing machines. And before then, the door had always been closed and locked. I've tried it a couple times out of vague curiosity, but no, it was always locked. I never really thought about it. I figured management kept, cleaning supplies in there. But that morning, as I did my laundry, I felt something. Like if you could feel a whisper, physically feel it, not hear it with your ears, actually feel the whisper envelop you. Soft, but strong, like it was calling me.
Beautiful.
And I turned around, and I saw that locked door was standing open. Just a little, just a couple inches. I'd never seen that before. And at first I thought, that's kind of creepy. I didn't like having my back to it, so I went to check it out. But as soon as I got closer, it didn't seem so scary anymore. It just seemed new. I opened the door wide. It's very dark in there, as you'll see. And that's the first time I saw it. Of course I got Maggie right away. Things like this rarely come into people's lives. Almost never. We decided we had to share it with the rest of our neighbors.
Yeah? Things like this?
It's mythical. Its shape alone could tell you that. Four-sided, perfect, divine, too concrete, measurable dimensions, length and width, and a third unknowable depth. Like the faces of God. It means something. It has to. You don't keep mythical secrets from those who could learn from it. We aren't old men in white robes with closely guarded, Kabbalistic secrets and vast hordes of wealth. We are a new kind of student. We believe everyone should see.
But you don't want media attention.
Everyone within reason.
We enter the lobby and I realize that I'm being herded like a lamb. Maggie's out front leading the charge, but Sam and Nat are closed on either side. We pass 2 other tenants, a man and a woman, who lean against a wall, chatting. You headed to the basement, Maggie?
Yep. Come along, won't you? This is Blake.
The newcomers fall into step behind me, and I have the fleeting thought that I'm effectively barred from escape on all sides. I brush this off and watch as Maggie steps forward and opens the basement door. It creaks as she does so, and on tape the sound is very loud, very deep. The groan of a sunken ship, buffeted by a tide. An ominous sound. I feel the change as soon as we step foot upon the basement stairs. The atmosphere is suddenly thick, it's heavy, like we're moving through a dense fog. It's dim everywhere in the building, but the darkness takes on an inky quality here, substantial, almost as if it was a living, breathing thing. It encroaches upon the wall lamps and pushes into the lobby. At this point, I get excited. The only place I have ever felt an atmosphere shift nearly this intense was in Infected Town, which feels completely different than the entity did. But simultaneously, it's exactly the same. The auras of two distinct supernatural things, unalike in flavor, but auras nonetheless. My body erupts into goosebumps. This is real, I think to myself. This is real and powerful and dangerous. Possibly even evil, if evil exists. All my doubts about the whole anomaly are eviscerated before I even get my first look. You can't fake an atmosphere like that. I think Maggie senses my excitement. I feel a hand on my arm, cool and gentle, and I watch. The lips curl into a smile. None of the others seem as unnerved by this place as I am. Maybe they're just used to it. Maybe it doesn't seem as malicious to them as it does to me. If I'm picking up Maggie's not-so-subtle vibes correctly, whatever's here, it's making my hackles rise and my fight-or-flight instincts kick in. It is exactly what these people see as some kind of spiritual experience. Pretty blind, if you ask me. Who the fuck am I to judge? We descend the stairs in silence and reach the basement.
In there.
The laundry room is spacious, tidy, and should be well lit by afternoon sunlight streaming in through the high windows, but opposite the washing machines, a door stands wide, beckoning, a shadow on the wall which instantly draws the eye. Sludgy ink-black darkness seems to pour through it, nearly as substantial as smoke. It somehow dims the effect of the sunlight. This room is substantially darker than the rest of this dark building, no matter how many windows it has. I wonder briefly what the hole's purpose is. Does something live inside of it? Something old and deep? Or is this hole itself alive somehow? Does it have motives, desires? Is it inanimate, or does it think the way people think? I'm suddenly gut sure that I will know the answer when I see it. I'll understand. I cross the laundry room, still flanked on all sides by the tenants of this dark place. People who already know and understand the whole. No wonder they're entranced, I think. Power like this mesmerizes, so it attracts, and mere humans who are drawn to its web from my experience rarely escape. There we go, waxing dramatic again. We stop in front of the door, and the darkness inside seems to writhe in anticipation. I can barely see the room beyond. Shadows coat and cling to every surface.
After you.
Maggie waves me inside. I step into the hole's chamber, the tenants following close behind, silent. I linger in the doorway, not wanting to fall into the pit in case its edges are closer than I surmise. The room is very dark, with rough stone walls, packed dirt floor. And for a moment, that's all I can make out. Blinking rapidly, my eyes slowly adjust to the darkness. And I'm able to see it.
Isn't it beautiful?
I don't respond.
It feels lonely somehow. Lonelier every time I visit. Like it wants something.
Like the hole wants.
But I come down here every day. We all do. Spend hours with it. Shit, why's it gotta be lonely?
I think. Maybe it wants more than that. I feel that it wants to be close to us. Closer than we are right now.
I think I want that too.
Murmured agreements from the others.
How do we do that, Mags?
Give me time. I'll think of something.
As they talk, the group moves around me, leaving me by the door to head deeper into the room and form a loose semicircle. I'm thoroughly unnerved by the conversation, and their attention is completely preoccupied. Their eyes are all fixed down into the hole, converging on the same distant point as though staring into a black abyss. As I watch them, I notice the pale, sickly sheen across their foreheads. Their manic expressions. I notice for the first time how sick they look. The waxy skin, the black circles under wide eyes, the deep creases in their smile lines. Obsession personified. Soon the group falls quiet, one by one. The silence rings in this recording. eerie and complete. The 5 tenants' gazes are still fixed downward. Down into the depths. But the cognicy leaves them. Their eyes go blank, their mouths go slack, their shoulders slump. It's like they're completely entranced. More than that, it's almost like they're listening to something. It's a long, silent moment as the 5 people stand swaying in the dark room. I'm in the doorway watching with confusion and mounting horror. I can imagine them doing this a lot. Every day. If Sam is to be believed, it seems normal for them, as they were doing anything strange at all. It's just a part of their daily schedule. Get off work, go to the apartment basement, zone out with a hole for an hour. Then, and maybe it's the trick of the light, maybe I'm so wound up I imagine it, but I swear suddenly all 5 of them look up at once. No communication passed between them, but at the exact same instant, all 10 eyes flick upwards. Together as one, I'm already about to back out of the room when this happens, but I freeze under their collective gaze. For a long time, the group watches me with animal intensity, and I stare back. I see Maggie nod almost imperceptibly to something I can't hear, and through the darkness I can barely make out that her lips are moving in a silent litany. Where the other mouths hang slack, hers curves upward in a greedy smile. Where the other eyes are dull and unfocused, hers are sharp and shining. Slowly she raises her hand and reaches out to me. I slip backwards out of the room without any more ado. I turn and head quickly for the stairs, and by the time I get to the lobby, I'm running. It was a relief to get out of that building, into the light and normalcy. That darkness was pervasive, oppressive. I left Seattle immediately, like I was running for my life. For days after, I felt the hole's aura clinging to me, oozing through my pores. Whatever presence is in that building, it's something real, something even a hard-headed skeptic would have trouble scoffing at, and it's something bad. Otherwise, I don't know what it is. What to define it as: a creature, an anomaly, a beast. I don't know exactly how it affects the tenants of that building, and I don't know what it wants from them. But I do know that when I walked through the door and peered through that darkness, all I saw was a plain dirt floor in an unlit but otherwise nondescript basement room. There was no hole there. There's nothing else to the story besides this. A few months later, I googled that apartment building just to see if anything popped up, and none of the tenants ever tried to contact me after I left without a word. I had a feeling they were sort of used to my kind of reaction. Not a lot popped up on the search pages besides an article on a 3-year-old boy who'd gone missing from there a few weeks ago. He'd been staying with his dad, who was also missing. Mom thought he'd kidnapped him. Piqued my interest, so I called Jim C., the landlord, and transcribed our conversation. Case number 4, the hole, addendum. Date, March 10th, 2017. Phone call with Jim C.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. C., this is Blake E. We talked back in December about that building.
Blake! How are you, son?
You remember me?
Of course I do. I never forget you. How much you helped me.
No, I think that you might be...
After you came in to ask about the hole, I figured I'd go back to that building to check it out again. See if there was something I missed. And there was, sure as shit. Couldn't believe it myself. But sometimes I guess it takes more than once to really see it.
Hold up. You saw the hole?
Of course I did. It's there, plain as day. I'm on my way over for a visit right now, matter of fact. It gets lonely, you know. Now that the building's empty. The hole gets so lonely. I visit every day, but I don't think that's enough anymore.
Jesus Christ, Jim. I don't know what you're thinking, but...
Oh, I know you worry. Everyone worries. But I tell them, and I'll tell you, there's nothing to fear. The hole is... It's special. It's really something special. It's... Son, I don't use this word a lot. But that hole is something sublime.
You gotta be kidding me.
Don't believe me, huh? Can't blame you for that. But you will. Just come back and visit sometime. You'll understand when you see it.
No, please listen to me, okay? That thing is bad news.
Well, it was great catching up, old friend. Thanks again. You really helped change things around here. I just got to the building, so I'd better head inside.
Jim.
You want to come up and visit sometime?
I will. Jim, if you turn around right now and go back home, I'll go to Seattle by tonight, and I'll come visit. You just wait for...
I'd better go. Don't want to hold things up. It's an important day for me. For us. I'll talk to you later if I'm still around, I guess.
Jim, Jesus!
Bye now.
I called an anonymous tip to the local police, but I don't know if they ever sent anyone to check on him. I was in Kansas at the time. Driving back to Seattle wasn't feasible. And I haven't heard from Jim C. since. That night I started looking up the tenants I knew by name. News sites, social media, whatever. Sam D., Margaret M., Natalie W. Missing. Happened 2 months after my visit, apparently. Some kind of mass exodus. But I have to wonder, if there's no hole there, then where do they go? But there aren't any answers. Or at least not answers I'm willing to learn, because you only understand when you see it. And I think by that point, it's already too late. That's it for now. I have more cases, though. A lot more. And I'll be posting again soon. To be continued. I have a couple of weird stories for you tonight. Something strange happened to me after case number 4. I'm not sure it has to do with the hole. I'm sure it has to do with anything. But the first time was shortly after leaving Seattle, fleeing from the darkness lurking in the basement of that apartment building. I was on I-90 around sunset, going 70 through the central Washington desert, when I happened to glance in my rearview mirror. And there was a goddamn guy sitting at the little table in the RV's kitchenette. I swerved in shock, then righted myself and yelled something like, "What the fuck? Who the fuck are you?" No response. When I glanced back in the mirror, he was still there, motionless, completely ensconced in shadows. I just saw his form, tall, thin, and he seemed to be wearing a wide-brim hat, maybe a fedora. He was sitting at my table. Looked to me like he was facing the back window, gazing out. Solid, real, not a hallucination or mirage. I yelled at him again. Then I quickly pulled over and put on my hazards. But by the time I undid my seatbelt, stood and turned around, he was gone. I thoroughly checked the RV, nada. No plausible way for him to hide or escape, he was just gone. I decided maybe he wasn't a person. Actually, he looked a lot like one of those shadow people you hear about. All black, like a walking silhouette, but a 3-dimensional one. And I don't know how common this is, but this one seemed to have a few more real-life details. There was the suggestion of color in his skin, and the clothes when he shifted. Very corporeal, just looked like a human dude was sitting behind me in the dark. But that clearly wasn't the case. I doubted he was a ghost, but you never know. I brushed it off as maybe an overactive imagination, still spooked by my encounter with the hole. I didn't think that he would appear again. That was wrong. A few months went by. I continued interviewing people with stories to tell. Most of them were run-of-the-mill haunted houses and UFO sightings. The kind of shit that gives you a few goosebumps, but nothing I hadn't heard of before. Nothing like the hole. I traveled, constantly ghosting in and out of people's lives. I was never lonely. I met new people almost every day. But nothing ever got complicated. I preferred it that way. Early that spring, I was contacted by a woman in a small town in Louisiana who said that she had a story for me. Like nothing you ever heard. She also said that she had proof that she hadn't dreamt it. She wouldn't say much more. Intrigued, I headed south to see what I could find. Case number 9, the handprints. Location, St. Martinsville, Louisiana. Date, March 31st, 2017. Witness name Lydia T. Relationship to case. Family. St. Martinville is a small, picturesque town in southern Louisiana, about 60 miles southwest of Baton Rouge. I am told by my host, Miss Lydia, that we are in the heart of Cajun country. It's gorgeous here. Green bayous and lush forests, and holy shit, the food's good. Lydia is a sweet, bubbly woman in her 50s with an energetic air. She greets me at her home, an old two-story plantation-style house, and ushers me inside as soon as I arrive. I'm surprised by how welcoming she is. People get a little wary about meeting strangers, but she says she saw right away that I'm a good guy. I start recording immediately. There's something about this house, something that feels promising. Lydia shares the home with her husband and his 98-year-old grandmother, Mama Daphne. Her husband is away on business, but I met Daphne as Lydia leads me to the kitchen for iced tea. We pass through the parlor, which is darker than the rest of the house. Heavy brocade curtains are drawn over the windows. Lydia, talking and gesticulating, doesn't even pause to point out the frail old lady sitting in the rocker by the corner. I almost passed her without noticing her. I would have, actually, had she not shifted a little and set the chair rocking. For a second, out of the corner of my eye in the dark room, I think it's a shadow figure in that chair. God, holy God. Sorry, ma'am.
That's Mama. She don't talk much. Mama, why don't you get yourself some light in here? You scare the poor child half to death, you. Mesla, I tell you. Sensitive eyes, she says.
No, it's okay, my bad. Nice to meet you, Mama. Mama raises a withered arm and gestures vaguely at me. Opens her mouth, she croaks something I can't make out. A slurred mix of French and English. Her eyes are squinted, glaring. Her mouth turned down in a scowl. She looks pissed.
Oh boy. She likes you, I think.
What'd she say?
Haven't the slightest to me. Come on, let's get us to the kitchen.
We leave the dark parlor. Mama snarls something as we leave, her voice rising into a screech. But Lydia ignores it. I follow her lead.
Old crot. It's nicer in here, yeah?
She your mom?
Bon Dieu, no. My husband's. Lived here 4 years now. Getting meaner and weirder by the day. Not that she was ever sweet to start with, no. But you gotta be there for family.
Sure.
Ah, well. Have some tea, cher. Food, too. Mange. Me? I got a story to tell. You ready?
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, this happened last winter, bit before Christmas. My husband, he was going out of state on business, so it was just me and Mama here. She wasn't so out of her head then, no. Bit more lucid. And she was looking forward to the big fires to do with family. So she was in a pretty good mood that week, huh? We passed us a good time, getting the house ready for guests. Well, the night before the cousins are supposed to be here, we get a knock at the door. Mama answers it, and out there in the dark is our neighbor, Miss Lola Savoy, who lives just up the hill back there.
Lydia points to the kitchen window, toward the thick green expanse of trees beyond their backyard.
Well, you wouldn't know, Cher, but Miss Lola is no bit of good news around here. The kids call her a witch. They're all scared of her to death. Won't go near her place. Me? I think she's just a poor old lady. Likes to keep to herself. Maze, when I saw her at the door, I caught a frisson, you know. Miss Lola is too old to be walking alone at night through them woods, and anyway, why would she? Did she need help? I tried to ask me, but as soon as Mama saw her, she cursed at Miss Lola there, and she just slammed the door in her face. I heard Miss Lola curse her right on back, through the door, and she kept on knocking, but Mama refused to let her in. Wouldn't let me near the door neither. Miss Lola stayed out there a while, then she left. I still don't know what she come here for. Well, I asked Mama about it, and Mama tells me she hates old Miss Lola, and they have hated each other since they was kids. Something about an old beau of Mama's who Miss Lola stole from her. She won't do nothing for that lady to this day. Won't even talk to her. Me? I'm worried Miss Lola might be hurt or sick. Why else would she come down here? Miss, when I finally get past Mama, Miss Lola's already gone into the night. Mama, she falls asleep early, just as peaceful as you please. I go upstairs to lay down too. And I can't sleep at all, no. I just keep fretting on about Miss Lola and hope she's okay. I guess I did doze off after a while, though, because the next thing I remember is I open my eyes and how dark it is. I lay there for a second, wondering what could have woke me, and I listen. And then I hear a sound, and I say, "What is that now?" And there it is again. I hear it. It's something going thump, 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 thump. It ain't outside, no. It sounds like it's somewhere off in the house. And me, I think, now that's a strange thing to hear. And then I hear it again. Thump, 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 thump. And I can tell now. It's coming from upstairs. Up in the attic, but on the other end of the house. And well, sure, sounds like someone's running around up there, back and forth across the floor. Thump, 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 thump. And that really scares me. My husband's gone away that week, remember? And I'm all alone here with Mama. She can barely climb the stairs. She couldn't never reach the attic door to get up there. I hope it's just a raccoon or something, or a possum. But this sounds bigger than that. Sounds like a kid is racing around up there. Thump, 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 thump. Well, I don't know what possessed me, but I decided I needed to take a look. So I got a flashlight. I went out in the hall. The attic door wasn't pulled down none, which was a comfort, and so I went up there. And you know what? I didn't find nothing. It was just empty. No animals, no people, no footprints in the dust. I wondered if maybe acorns were falling down on my roof and giving me a scare. Decided that must be it, so I went back to bed. I started to doze off, and just as I really start to fall asleep, I hear it again. Thump, 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 thump. And it sounded closer, like someone was running around right above me. Right above me, up in the attic. But that area... My bedroom is right near the side of the house, and I know well as anyone that where the roof comes down and meets the attic floor, it's too low for someone to be walking around up there. And that, I tell you, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. But I can still hear it. Thump, 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 thump. And it pauses. And thump, 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 thump. And I say to myself, what is that? And it comes to the area of the attic that's right above my bed. Right above me. Thump, 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 thump. And I finally get too scared. I grab my flashlight and I turn it on, just so I have some light, and I... Allons, cher. Maybe you should see for yourself, so you believe me.
She leads me out of the kitchen and upstairs down a long hallway. Assuming we're headed to the end, where a trap door to the attic is cut into the ceiling. I beeline for it, but Lyd just stops me halfway there, and opens a door into the master bedroom.
This is where I was.
Okay.
I turn on my flashlight, and I look up at the ceiling.
What the fuck?
Up there, crawling around on her hands and knees, up on the ceiling like a giant insect, there's an old lady in a dirty nightgown.
I study the ceiling as she speaks. There are handprints up there, dozens of them, crisscrossing every which way, dark black stains, and you can clearly make out fingers and prints of the palms. I turn to Lydia confused. Crawling On the ceiling?
Sure enough. Made those noises I was hearing when she used her 2 hands and 2 knees to move around. Thump, 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 thump. She was fast, too. Sounded like running, sort of skittering around. It took me a lot of staring to realize. It was Mama. But something had happened to her. Something bad. She was crawling around there and she was giggling all crazy. Her hair was flying everywhere. She looked like she was the witch. She stopped moving when I put the light on her and covered her face and screeched at me. I didn't know what to do me. I just stared. I couldn't even scream. When I finally found my voice, I said, Mon Dieu, and cher. I know you're not Cajun, but that means...
My God, yeah, I know.
You have your faith, Blake?
No, ma'am. Not much.
That's sad news, cher. Really. Maybe someday you'll find it. Me? I have mine since I was just a peachwank. So when I said the name of God, I meant it, and it had power behind it. Mama screamed when she heard it. Like, then she fell down off the ceiling. She landed on the bed, thank Jesus. Didn't break nothing. Her hands were filthy with something. That's how come she left all those handprints up there. I found a weird old bag on the kitchen table next morning. Maybe a hex bag, some kind of kunja. Mama had ripped into it. I think she was trying to destroy it. But it was full of ashes or dirt. Maybe that was what got all over her hands. Well, Mama never recovered from it, whatever it was. You saw her today, yeah? The light blinds her. She can't speak so well no more. She's always so angry. It was like she had a stroke or something. That's what the doctors say. Me? I think she was witched. I think old Miss Lola made a gris-gris on her when she didn't let her in that night. And maybe when Mama found that hex bag and destroyed it, maybe she made it worse on her own self.
Can we talk to Lola? Get her insights?
I'd love to, Cher, I really would. And the next morning, I went out to do just that. I followed the trail up into the woods towards a house. But I only got to the top of that first hill. And I found her body there.
Oh no.
Uh-huh. Miss Lola was lying face down in the middle of the trail. Looked like she'd been there all night. She met her demise out in the dark and the cold. I think she really was asking for help from us. Such a cruel thing for Mama to do, throwing her out like that.
It's hard to blame her for making the gris.
Oh, it sure is, yeah. And it's hard to blame Mama for throwing out a witch. But they could have talked, them. Could have had forgiveness, some compassion. And they didn't. Neither of them. Me? I think we get what's coming to us. Maybe that night, both of those old ladies, with so much hate in their shriveled little hearts, maybe they got exactly that.
Now, admittedly, I left that one skeptical. Lygia seemed like a nice lady, but the handprints on the ceiling weren't exactly the proof that she promised. She could have used a tool to put them there herself, though granted that would have taken a lot of effort. Mama was a mean old thing, sure, but lots of old ladies were like that. This very well could be a hoax. That night, Lygia's family let me park the RV on their land and sleep there. As I lay in the dark, and silence drifting off, I heard something from beyond the curtains, between the bed and the kitchenette. It was a footstep, someone treading on the creaky bit of floor, right next to the sink. With a lurch, I thought of Mama, her withered old limbs taking her back and forth across the ceiling. But I immediately disregarded that. The atmosphere in here was completely different from that house. And then I heard the creak of a cabinet door opening in the kitchen, and the distinct sound of someone taking a glass or bowl from it. I sat up completely alert, and more than pissed. Who the hell was in my RV? I climbed off the bed, grabbed the baseball bat I kept next to it in case of this very occurrence. I'm a big guy. I know I could swing that thing with heavy force. Palming it, I quietly slid back the curtain and peered into the rest of the RV. An empty room. Blue moonlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the table, kitchenette, and further up the driver and passenger seats, but no interloper. I quickly checked the tiny bathroom and the storage space, opened up the door to peer out into the darkness. Nothing moved. The door had been locked. It's not exactly easy to hide in an RV, so I was satisfied only after a couple of minutes that no one else was in there. I rubbed my face and I told myself I was being an idiot. You submerge yourself in the weird and haunted for months. Of course you're going to hear some bumps in the night. Sighing, I headed back to bed. But as I passed the kitchen, I noticed that a cabinet door was wide open, and a plastic glass sat on the counter next to the sink. I was fairly sure that hadn't been me, but I might have simply forgotten. Oh shit, though. My RV turned out to be haunted. I was officially the unluckiest guy in existence. There was no more sign of a ghost, though. Not for a few months, anyway. Case number 12, The Shape in the Lake. Location, Sandpoint, Idaho. Date, July 24th, 2017. Witness name, Kendall and Dan H. Relationship to case, they're the owners of the lake cabin. This one came in from good old Facebook. Kendall and Dan are family friends. And Kendall got in touch after they had dinner with my dad. I'm not very close with my parents, but after the 3-year infected town debacle, my dad made a conscious effort not to let me disappear from his life again, which I guess is a nice sentiment. We talk on the phone occasionally. Anyway, he told Kendall and Dan what I was doing, and made it out to be some kind of journalism project. The next day, Kendall messaged me. I drove up to their vacation home to see what it was all about. Lake Pend Oriel is the largest body of water in Idaho, and the 5th deepest lake in the nation. Surrounded by lush forests, it offers beauty and recreation of all kinds. Obviously, this has made it into a bit of destination for rich retirees. I hear Viggo Mortensen has a cabin up here. Kendall and Dan fit in perfectly. They're only in their 50s, but they've got the kind of setup that you could dream about. Dan's a pediatrician, planning on early retirement up here, and his wife Kendall works as a therapist in a city a few hours away. They own a quaint little cottage, right on the water surrounded by trees. It's a quiet part of the lake, a few miles from the nearby tourist town and relatively secluded from neighbors. Really pretty, really peaceful. I'm welcomed into their airy and richly furnished lake home with hugs and a glass of whiskey. After a little chatting up, they've known me since I was a kid. Dan wants to know if I'll smoke a cigar with him. I follow him upstairs to a wide balcony that looks out onto a picture-perfect view of the lake. The shoreline's only about 30 yards from the house. Kendall joins us, and we sit and drink and reminisce for a few hours, basking in the warmth of early summer. When the sun begins to set behind the distant mountains, however, suddenly Dan wants to go inside. I'm lounging with my feet propped up, picking at the cheese plate between me and very reluctant to move. Kendall shushes her husband, tells him that this is the perfect place to tell the story that I'm here for. Anyway, the sunset's too pretty. Grumbling, Dan sits back down and pours himself another drink. I settle back in my chair and start recording.
He's still a little skeeved out about all this. It happened last summer, and for a while there, I was afraid he'd make us move. But we've poured our hearts into this place, really fixed it up. You should have seen it before we got a hold of it, Blake. It was owned by a recluse, totally run down. The kitchen was... I can't. The land was totally overgrown, but we've made it our own.
Expensive overhaul, too.
Right. Danny never walks away from equity. Anyway, we stayed, but he still doesn't like going outside at night. We used to do night swims a lot.
Skinny dipping.
Danny! Well, anyway, we don't do that anymore.
It's a real bummer, but yeah, I won't. She won't either, despite the brave face.
What happened?
Well, it was last summer. The kids had come up for the weekend. You remember Joe and Izzy, don't you?
Of course. How'd they doing? We chat about their kids for a bit, both of whom are only a few years younger than me.
Get back to the story, Ken.
God, he is so bossy. Okay, so Joe and Izzy came up and we were having a nice day swimming, relaxing. About mid-afternoon, Izzy spotted something floating out in the lake. Middle of the lake. Way out over there.
Kendall gestures to the expanse of water between the trees. The lake is pretty wide in this area. The trees on the opposite shore are vague green shapes. There's nothing but water to the east and west.
So we looked, and there was something black floating out there. At first we thought it was a seagull.
Too big to be a seagull.
Well, so I thought it could be a log or something. No big deal. Happens a lot. But time went by, and the shape didn't move.
If it was a log, it'd get swept away by the waves. It was pretty windy out.
Exactly. But it stayed in the same general area all day.
We kept trying to figure out what it was, squinting at it, but it was just too far away to make out any details. We worried for a while that maybe it was a swimmer, someone got stuck out there or something. It looked like it could be someone's head, someone with dark hair.
But it couldn't be a person, though. I mean, that thing was out there for hours. No one could do that. They'd get too tired.
I thought it was a buoy or something. Someone anchored something out there, right in front of our cabin. Kinda pissed me off.
Oh, it did kind of look like a buoy.
Yeah, it wasn't moving around either. You'd think a person would be waving their arms bobbing around, but if this was a swimmer, he was really still. Just hunkered down in the middle of the lake with only his head above the surface for hours. Did it make sense though for a second? Could that guy be standing out on the lake floor out there? Maybe he wasn't treading water at all, but that wasn't possible either. It's like 20 feet deep out there.
Didn't Joe make some awful joke about a body being chained to a cinder block and floating to the surface?
Kinda bad taste.
Well, we figured it was a buoy. Thought we'd take the boat out the next day to go get it. No big deal.
Izzy got weird about it, though.
She did, didn't she? It really freaked her out. She kept saying, I don't know, that thing is weird.
Girl had a point.
Yeah. It freaked all of us out, actually. There was something uncanny about the way it was floating there. None of us wanted to swim out and see what it was. I don't think any of us got in the water again after Izzy pointed it out the first time.
I did. I wanted to float, but I felt too weird about it. Didn't stay in for long.
I got worried it could be some kind of big animal. Lots of possibilities.
Joe freaked out too. Tell him about that.
Right, so usually Joe is really stoic, man of few words. He was just shrugging off Izzy's hysterics the whole afternoon.
He still didn't get in the water though.
Anyway, after dinner, Joe went out for a smoke, and he came running back all wild-eyed. He said that the shape had moved while we were inside.
See? I said no problem. It was just some driftwood, and Joe was completely white. He said, no, it's closer to our shore.
We all went up to the balcony and looked out. It had definitely moved closer to us. We still couldn't figure out what it was, though. None of us even wanted to go back down to the dock. It was totally spooky, made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We wanted to stay as far away from it as we could.
The kids were pretty eager to get out there.
Yeah, they left shortly after dinner. Danny and I just holed up inside and forgot about it.
I didn't forget. I unlocked the gun safe.
Did you? Wow.
I didn't want to scare you, but I was worried about, I don't know. You know they do submarine testing in Pandora? It's that deep. There used to be military bases scattered all over it. At least, that's what I heard. I worried about government technology or weaponry or something, as stupid as that sounds.
It doesn't sound stupid. You guys are faced with the unknown.
Yeah, I was on pins and needles all night.
Well, I forgot about it, and Dan seemed fine too, so we drank some wine and had a nice evening. And around 11, we came out here onto the balcony for his bedtime cigar.
It was dark, but on nights where the moon is really bright, you have a perfect view of the water between the trees, there and there.
Sure enough, the view from the balcony is picturesque. From here, you can see the family's private beach, rickety wooden dock, framed by leafy green maple, which open up like theater curtains on either side. The sparkling lake beyond them looks almost too perfect to be real, tinged red and orange by the sunset. It's easy to see how a black smudge on the water's surface would not only be noticeable, it would disrupt the scene in a disturbing way.
We noticed right away that the weird shape was gone.
You'd think that would make us feel better. It was probably nothing all along. But for some reason, not being able to see it was even worse. Like, It reminded me of the time I was followed by a guy in Boise. Remember that, Danny? I was walking alone at night like an idiot, and I wasn't sure he was even following me. He could just be heading my way. But I looked back at one point, and I saw him duck into an alley trying to hide. And that's when I knew. So I ran.
Jesus.
The shape being gone felt like that. Like it wasn't really gone. It was just hiding.
I felt the same. We sort of just looked at each other, then got really quiet and watched the water. Felt like we were waiting for something. I was expecting, I don't know, a submarine or a bunch of military guys in black swimming over our property, but no, nothing. So we went to bed.
The couple grows quiet long enough that I begin to grow concerned. That's all there is to the story. They got spooked by a floating log, the end. About to ask when Dan finally speaks up again. His voice is hushed. Grave.
I woke up around 2 a.m. to a voice. It was outside. It was calling my name. Daniel. Daniel. Over and over. It was a young boy, a child. At first I was like, is that Joe or Izzy? Maybe they came back to try and scare us or something. But the more I listened, it didn't sound like either of them. They're adults, you know? So what the fuck? Well, maybe a neighbor's kid had gotten lost or something, or some teenagers were trying to prank us. We had our balcony door open, just had the screen to let in the breeze. That's why I could hear it so clearly. I got out of bed to go check it out. I had my gun with me just in case. I took that. Went out to the balcony and sort of crouched down and peeked over the railing. I was hoping the kid wouldn't see me, but he did. He saw me immediately. He got really excited. You know, Daniel, Daniel! So I stand up straight and kind of puff up to look intimidating, you know? I was angry, but I was also really scared. We've never had issues with kids on our property, or drunk people, or anything. That weird shape in the water kept coming back to me. I couldn't shake the feeling this was connected. So I looked over and I expected to see the kid down there, but...
Dan points over the balcony railing to the ground not 20 feet below us. Right in front of the house.
It was a full-grown man.
Fuck.
Yeah, he was a really tall guy, like 7 feet tall. I'm not shitting you. Lanky, real long arms. Well built, though. I got nervous because he looked so strong. He could probably even take you in a fight, Blake. I had no chance against him if he decided to get violent and broke into the house. That voice should not come from that body. And he was clearly insane. You know how sometimes you can just tell when people aren't right? This guy made it easy. The childlike voice was enough to clue you in, but he was naked too. Buck-assed fucking naked. That pissed me off. He had really long dark hair down to his back. I'd say he was a hobo or something, but he looked really clean. That was the odd thing. His hair was straight and shiny. He looked clean, you know? He wasn't disgusting or anything besides being naked. His eyes were weird though. Really blank, cloudy. Reminded me of fish eyes. Anyway, I didn't want him anywhere near the house.
I craned to look over the balcony, silently agreeing. The distance to the ground does not feel far at all, despite being one floor up. It would be extremely intrusive for a stranger to be there, especially one so tall. It would feel unsafe.
So I yelled at him, "Get out of here, this is private property, you know?" But he just stood there, smiling at me. His eyes, they looked like they were going to bulge out of his head. Blake, I swear to fucking God, those big, bulgy fish eyes. He called again, "Daniel," in that voice, and he beckoned to me, like...
Dan crooks his finger at me, smiling, his eyes wide and manic.
I froze. I couldn't move. I just kept staring at his weird, gray eyes.
Dan shakes his head and purses his lips, then paces forward to lean against the balcony, looking out to the lake beyond.
I don't remember much after that.
I do. It was awful. Danny woke me up when he got out of bed. And of course I heard that creepy child's voice calling for him. When I got out to the balcony, Danny was back by the screen door. I've never seen him like that. He was completely out of it, just staring straight ahead. And I followed his gaze, and I saw the top of that man's head. His weird, gray fish eyes peeking over the balcony railing.
Wait, he had climbed up the side of the house or something?
No, he was still standing on the ground. Blake, he was so tall, way taller than 7 feet.
But Dan, you had to lean over the railing to see him.
Yeah, he was down there, at least at first, I think.
Huh. Is it possible the guy, got taller?
Maybe. I don't know what Dan saw, but when I saw him, he was tall enough that he could see over a second-story balcony. Oh my god, he was grotesque. Looked sort of stretched out. His head was this oblong shape, and with all that long black hair. Anyway, I screamed, and I grabbed Danny to pull him away. The guy or thing or whatever, I got really afraid he'd try to, reach up the railing and grab us. But he didn't. In fact, he started backing away from us really slow, his huge body kinda cringing away. And he said, "Oh, hello," to me like a child caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Kept backing up towards the lake. His body language was very... almost shy. But he never took his eyes off us. He had predatory eyes. He kept saying, "Oh, hi there," or a variation of it, over and over in that young child's voice. Really uncanny. Over-friendly. And he apologized, too. "Oh, sorry, and I didn't see you there." Kept repeating himself like a broken record. "Oh, hello, didn't see you there. Oh, hi there, so sorry. Oh, I didn't see you there. Oh, hi." The whole time he was retreating from us. Really upsetting. He got to the end of the dock, still talking, saying nonsense, apologizing. "Oh, hello, oh, sorry, hi there." I thought he was heading back to a boat or something, but when he got to the end of the dock, he just went completely silent. Actually, I think the last thing he said was, "Oh, I didn't see you there." And then he suddenly just slipped into the water. Like a snake back into its hole. Hardly made a ripple. He didn't surface again. I don't know where he went. That was the last time we saw him. I got Danny back to bed, and he slept the whole night like nothing had happened.
It's been almost a year, but every time I look out at that damn lake from here, I think I'll see him surface. Pop his head above the water to watch.
There's something wistful in Dan's voice. Kendall hears it too, and I can tell it bothers her. What do you think it wanted with you?
It wanted a meal.
Nah, Ken, he didn't want anything like that. Hopefully, he didn't want anything at all.
Hopefully, we'll never find out.
Kendall and Dan graciously offered me their lot to park my RV and stay a few nights, which I took them up on. I've been going pretty steadily with cases at this point, driving all over the country, and a little vacation from that sounded excellent. But after the couple told me their story, we spent a few hours shooting the shit before they wanted to bunker down. I went back to my RV and I tried to settle down too. With their weird little tail knocking around in my skull, I was restless. Grabbed my cigs, rolled a joint, headed out to their rickety old dock. The scene of the crime and all that. Obviously, after nearly a year, I wasn't expecting to find any evidence of the creepy fish-eyed giant, but the lake was pretty in the moonlight. I stayed out there for a few hours smoking and contemplating the black water, still and mirror smooth. I tested my bravery by dipping a foot in, fully expecting it to be grabbed by a white, long-fingered hand. I waited a moment, almost hoping it would be. Months of stories, I wanted something concrete, something dangerous. But nothing happened. I withdrew my foot. The night grew deeper. As I sat in silence, staring up at the stars, my thoughts drifted to Claire. My best friend, the best girl I've ever known. It had been years since she died, but the melancholy and regret were still as sharp as ever. She would have loved this. Lake. The whisper ripped me out of my contemplations, coming from somewhere behind me. I jerked around, scanning the yard, and saw nothing but the dark house. No Kendall or Dan, no one. I rose to my feet. Whoever had called my name had to be somewhere. The voice had been loud, clear as day. More of a yell whisper. I guess they could be hiding in the thick foliage surrounding the yard. but everything was still and dark. I didn't have a flashlight to go searching anyway. My eyes landed on my RV where a light burned through the windows, the only source of illumination for miles. Wait, the light? I was sure I turned them all off before coming out here. I squinted towards it and suddenly a face appeared in the RV's kitchen window. Well, the silhouette of a face. A face wearing a wide-brim hat. It pressed itself against the glass from the inside, fully shadowed by the light behind it. First, in the distance and darkness, I didn't think that it had any features, but as I squinted, I thought I could make something out. Something like 2 round white eyes and a toothy mouth. It was hard to be sure. It was still for a long moment. Then it slowly, vaguely raised one of its shadowy hands to point a finger at me. No, not at me, behind me. Somehow finding it in me to take my eyes off of whatever was in my RV, I slowly turned around. Out in the middle of the lake, lit only by blue moonlight, a small black shape floated eerily in the glassy surface. My mouth dropped open. I squinted at it through the darkness. It did look like someone's head. Someone with long black hair that covered most of his face. The way it sat there, I got the impression that it was attached to a body underneath, but it was too far away to really tell. After a couple minutes, the shape slowly sank back underwater, as if it noticed it had been spotted. He was retreating for the night, going back under the water to wait. Patient. I stood there on that dock for a long while. It never resurfaced. That was enough of that. I turned to head back to my RV, the shadow person inside being far preferable to whatever was lurking in the lake. But all the lights were off once again, and when I got back, it was empty and silent. I tried to sleep after that, but I ended up just laying in bed thinking. A little nervous. So close to the anniversary of the fish-eyed giant's first visit. Seeing that shape in the lake tonight. I imagined the worst. Maybe he'd call my name from outside. Maybe I'd wake up to a giant standing over me, drooling, licking his chops. Possibilities kept me awake until the wee hours. Then I said I wanted an adventure. Pussy. I finally drifted off around 3 a.m. Sleep was restless. I woke with a start, probably less than an hour later, and I stared at the ceiling, wondering what had pulled me out of sleep so abruptly. I was overcome with the eerie sense that there was eyes on me. Some unseen intruder. Dread started in my chest, and the kind I usually associate with nightmares or half-dream states. Eventually I was fully awake. There was the sound of a soft creak, and in my periphery I thought I saw the curtains in the bedroom doorway shift abruptly. As if someone was trying to open them or running their fingers along them from the other side, but in the dim pre-dawn light, I couldn't be sure. I told myself that I was just jumpy, just imagining the movement. But those damn curtains kept shifting, inch by inch. I turned my head to look. There was indeed a gap in the curtains. The opening widened near ground level, like something was parting them at the foot of my bed. Slowly, I moved my eyes down to see what it was. A man's head was peeking between them, down near floor level, like he was crawling around. He froze when I spotted him, neither retreating nor advancing. I felt his eyes on me, though. Even though he didn't have any, he was featureless. In fact, solid black, like the impression of a face, pits for eyes, a bump for a nose, high cheekbones, the impression of a mouth. Three-dimensional silhouette. No hat this time, though. That mean there was more than one. Even if that was the case, I didn't think shadow people could move physical objects like curtains or cups. I didn't think they could speak, call my name. I didn't think they latched onto people and followed them around the country. I yelled as soon as I saw him. After a moment, he retreated, and the curtains fell back into place. Of course, when I searched the RV, no one was there. Again. So that was the third time my shadow friend showed up. The first was after the hole. Then after Lydia's story, now this. Not only that, this time it actually drew my attention to what was happening out in the lake. Did that mean anything? Well, I had no idea. Some kind of pattern was forming, and I wasn't sure I liked it. Whatever it was, you can bet your ass I'm gonna keep an eye on it. I don't exactly remember this case, but I do remember why I went to New York in the first place. I went between cases, checking out the beautiful fall scenery on the East Coast. One night I drove past a billboard in upstate New York. Someone in a black silhouette stood beneath it, walking slowly down the road. I didn't think much of it. A few miles later, however, the same ad was again set up on a different billboard, and under this one too was the black shape of the tall man. This time he wore a wide-brimmed hat. The billboard was an ad for some tourist attraction in New York City. I slowed down, thinking that it could be a coincidence. Someone was simply moving out of the shadows under the sign, perhaps trying to cross the road. He was walking toward me, after all, except he didn't seem to be getting any closer, and as I watched, the lower part of his shadowy face split open. Slowly, very slowly, a row of shiny white teeth appeared. A grin. That flash of white startled me. I glanced away for a half a second, and then I looked back. He was gone. I hadn't planned on checking out New York. It was too crowded. But I took it as a sign and headed there anyway. And nothing happened. No ghosts, no stories. I ended up wandering Brooklyn for a few hours, then driving away disappointed. I didn't think about it much afterward. It's been nearly a year since then. A few weeks ago, I was up late going through all my transcripts with the intention of finding suitable ones to post here and send to IHK. At some point, I went outside to have a quick smoke. When I came back, this document was on my desk. I didn't open it. I didn't even know how it existed. I read through, confused and unnerved. The doc was untitled, and it wasn't saved to the folder where I kept the rest of my case transcripts. Combined with the fact that I had no recollection of the events herein, there's no way I would ever have found this document in the bowels of my laptop, unless, of course, some shadowy hand waited until I was away from the computer, came in and pulled it up for me to see. I immediately felt that it was significant. Like I said, though, I have no memory of the occurrence in these transcripts. Nothing happened in New York as far as I can recall. Can't answer questions regarding it. And there's very little follow-up I can take. I'll let it speak for itself. Case file. The dead girl. Location, New York City, New York. Date, October 12th, 2017. Witness name. She calls herself Lazari. Let's go with that. Relationship to case. Subject. We sit in the husk of a building on one of the seedier parts of the city, lit only by candles cupped in clear glass bottles. There's no water here, no electricity. Despite that, she's created a fairly comfortable setup in what has to be a condemned apartment. Had a pile of cushions to seat my bony ass upon, and a crate beside me on which to rest my laptop and my half-drunk Coke. There is a cooler next to us filled with beer and soda and wrapped sandwiches from the nearby delicatessen. All in all, this girl, homeless or not, is a better host than half the people I've met on my journey across the United States. Lazari, she calls herself. I look up at her, seated across from me, silent and contemplative, as she gazes out the window towards New York at midnight. She's lit in the weird, flickering blue glow of the neon gas station sign across the street. It only serves to darken her eye sockets and hollow out her cheekbones. With her hood pulled up, and her willowy limbs folded around herself, this girl could easily be a 21st century aspect of death itself. Now, I don't remember how I met Lazari. All I know is what she told me. And I know this. I was wandering the streets alone tonight, just a few hours ago. I happened to glance down an alley, only to see what I think is a shadowy figure as it disappears around the next corner. Well, where he goes, I follow. I jog after him around the corner, and I'm met with nothing. Nothing but dumpsters. And the neon red and white sign of the 24-hour barber/tattoo parlor at the end of the street. No shadowy guy in sight. Then my arm is grabbed from behind and I turn, tense, ready to strike out in a mugger. And instead, I'm met with wide gray eyes and a blue painted smirk.
Blake, right? No idea how you made it, but I'm glad you did. Come on.
Shrugging, I follow. My life is so surreal lately, it's all I can do. She leads me down a few side streets, up a fire escape and into a dilapidated brick building. She bids me seated. I sit. I ask her name, Lazary. She's young, maybe early 20s, and pretty in a pale, waifish way. She's got blue dreads, blue lipstick, and a sad look in her eyes. A look that makes me want to save her. I ask if she knows me. She says she does. My name, my mission. In fact, she says that we've had a number of conversations so far. Emails, phone calls. I came to New York to speak to her. A second ago, I felt sure of why I'm in the city. Led here by a shadow, but now I feel confused. Displaced. I don't know if she's lying, but I get the feeling she's not. I start recording. So you wanted me to visit. I assume you have a story to tell.
Yeah. How'd you find me anyway? I told you weeks ago where I wanted to meet, and you promised me you would. Bullshit, I thought, but there you were. That... I'm not sure if you realize, but that is pretty fucking amazing. You're like, gifted or something? Spiritually?
Doubt it. I followed a shadow, and there you were.
Guess it's not the craziest thing I've ever heard. I think you've got the touch of, like, something about you, though. I don't think you're normal. I got a good nose for that kind of thing.
I'm a wandering ghost hunter, with no friends, no home, and no real purpose. So yeah, in that way, I guess you're right.
You have a past, though.
Well, we're not here to talk about me. I want to hear your story. Why don't I remember anything about...
Comes with the territory.
And what territory is that?
I'm dead, mister.
I thought it might be something like that. Inwardly, I groaned. Crazy homeless girl likely about to proposition or rob me. I make a mental note not to follow my shadowy friend's advice anymore. You don't look like a ghost to me.
Yeah, well, I'm not. I'm not a corpse either. I breathe, I eat, I interact with the living. I'm just not one.
So, for all intents and purposes, you're alive.
Well, no. I mean, I interact with the living, but that doesn't mean I can ever affect the living.
What does that mean? You're talking to me, you led me here. I'd say you're affecting me.
For now, yeah. You'll forget me as soon as you leave.
Really?
Like I said, we've talked before. I always have to act like it's the first time, explain my situation. You always seem cautiously interested. I always give you the same place and time to meet me, but I never thought you'd actually show. No one else ever has, and that's why I think you're special.
That's hard to believe.
Of course it is. It's just a theory anyway. I don't know how these things work. Maybe you're not special. Maybe it's the date. October 12th. It's my death date.
I mean, congratulations? She sends me a withering look and I chuckle. I don't know why I like this girl so much, but I do.
Sit and spin, asshole. You want to hear about it or not?
Well, I'm always game for a death story.
Oh, yeah. And mine's a good one. It's one of my clearest memories. Shit gets foggy for me, but when your impact on everything is so meaningless, you wander around in a sort of daze. But I remember. You may not know it, looking at me now. I was a cheerleader in high school. Went to a local place, like 5 blocks down from here. I ruled that school. Hottest thing since a trash fire. We still have a picture of me up in the main hall, up on top of the pyramid. You can go look at it if you ever remember to. Everyone said I looked like Madonna, and this was the 80s, mind you. She was super huge then.
But you were a teenager in the 80s?
When I say I'm dead, Blakey boy, that means I don't age.
Like a vampire.
I fucking guess. You think I'm delusional.
I'm withholding judgment. Tell me your story.
How noble. Not like it'll matter what you think of me as soon as you leave. So okay. This was 1988. Middle of my senior year. I was head cheerleader, student body president. I had a literal gaggle of guys tripping over themselves for me. And unfortunately for them, I was my own stereotype. A bitch with a capital B. I legit got my kicks out of hurting people. I took pride in it. You've probably never been rejected by a girl in your life, Blakey, or you would know how I made some of those guys feel.
Well, I've had my fair share of rejections, believe me.
You're exactly the kind I'd go after, too. Tall and strong, tattoos. Man, I loved me a bad boy. I loved how they turned to putty in my hands. I loved making them cry.
I'm flattered, and a little scared.
Yeah. You know, I honestly think if things kept going the way they were, I would have turned out to be a total psychopath. Or addicted to coke. Oh, maybe both. So, I guess when I got diagnosed with leukemia, it was a blessing in disguise.
Jesus.
God, don't get all sad for me. Come on. It was the bad kind of leukemia. Myelogenous. Kind they couldn't cure. Like, insidious. I didn't even notice the symptoms until it was too late. Doctors gave me 3 years.
Jesus.
Yeah. I was 19. It's pretty fucked, honestly. It changed me. You can't help changing after shit like that. I remember I had like 1 month of chemo and I was like, nope, fuck that noise. I'm not living like that. Just to die anyway. I stopped going to doctors. I was pissed and fucking terrified. I didn't want to die. I couldn't imagine a world without me in it, but medicine wasn't doing shit. So I started investigating alternate means.
Like what?
Well, it started like alternative medicine, you know, hippie shit, herbs and oils and fucking like meditation or whatever. Bullshit stuff. None of it made me feel as bad as the chemo, though. And kinda, when you're that close to the other side, you kinda start to get a little obsessed with it. I did, at least. Started getting into like ghosts, spiritualism. I really liked spiritualism. It made death feel romantic, you know? Lace and corsets. Like I was this tragic walking symbol of the grave. I started to do the goth thing, carried around a Ouija board and pretended it wasn't a fucking Hasbro toy.
Do those things work?
Do I fucking look like I know if they work? Man, I am of the firm opinion that anything works if you believe it does. Particularly with spirits and shit. Maybe not all that fancy techno bullshit you see on ghost shows, but give a dude a letterboard and a planchette, leave him alone in a dark room for a couple hours, he's sure as fuck gonna be speaking to some dead people. It's all about the human element. Our connection with the other side, or other sides. It's not just death. There are other realms too, and we can access them if we try hard enough. If we just stop for a fucking second and try. That power, that connection, that is what magic is.
Realms.
Yes, Blake, fucking realms, dimensions, the things that inhabit them. Listen, don't fucking get me started. I was talking about dying. So, the goth thing, like, that led to the occult, started with just, you know, like, witchy women, seances, tarot readings, like, pretty beginner, accessible stuff. Anyone can do it, but there's one thing I learned. Well, you know the origin of the word occult. You know what that means. It means secret, hidden, buried. It means if it's accessible, it's probably not going to be powerful. It's not going to shift your life in one fell swoop or let you meet a god. See, the shit that gives us the real goods, that's a little harder to find. You can't just walk into Borders, pick up Raven fucking Moonchild's latest book on Wicca, and expect it to give you all the answers. This is the esoteric shit I'm talking about here. The upheaving, ancient kind of shit. The kind of shit that give the Golden Dawn conniptions. Where you're actually reaching into other realms and pulling things out of them in a very real and visceral way. This shit, like, even if it was widely circulated, most people wouldn't want to make the necessary sacrifices to do it. Angels, or the things that we call angels, they're not answering to your cute little chalk circles. No demon is dragging her ass from the bowels of hell for a dead cat or some bloodletting. These rituals take months, years. They chew you up and spit you out, and half the time, they don't work anyway. I knew a guy, well, I mean, it's kind of off topic, but I knew a guy who locked himself in a cabin for 9 months. Did this intensive ritual, like 12 hours a day, every day. And I mean, this stuff was physically, mentally, emotionally exhausting. Like, it had him drawing complex sigils, balancing on one foot for hours, and I think he had to choke himself until he passed out like 3 times a week. All while focusing intent and speaking Latin. Plus, there was this whole masturbation schedule that was just like, I mean, like I said, it was intensive. Anyway, our boy does this for 9 months. 12 hours a day, no rest, had to pay attention to moon phases and hours and the curvature of the earth. And then when he was supposed to be greeted by I don't even remember, some being that could give him what he wanted. So at the end, our boy washes his hands and heads into the library to meet what he summoned, and nothing's there. He closes the library door, opens it again. Nothing. Every room, right? This room, empty. Just empty room. He waits. Nothing shows up. He waits longer. But he said he knew after a couple of minutes that it hadn't worked. He said he just sat down and cried. All that time, energy, blood, sweat, and tears, wasted. Now, we don't know where the problem was. Maybe he fucked up a sigil. Maybe he skipped a word. Hell, maybe once he didn't come at the precise moment he was supposed to. But we asked him, and he says he carried it out perfectly. He says it couldn't be that. It had to be his intention. He thought the being he was summoning did, in fact, hear his cry, but it decided to ignore him because of what he was asking for. See, a year before this, our boy got catfished on the internet by some dick who used to push him around in high school. The bully saw his dating profile, recognized him from the old days. God knows that guy had some confusion to work through. He pretended to be a hot chick who was totally into, the schlubby kid magician who worships the sweat between Aleister Crowley's flabby-ass cheeks. Why he ever thought some hot goth model would want him? Shit, I can't imagine. But he did. And he gave this fake girl fucking everything. Info, secrets, money. And then, when he found out it was all a lie, he kind of snapped. And he went and did a complicated-ass 9-month ritual, not to increase his sexual prowess or find a woman who was right for him, but to get revenge. 9 months dwelling on this, and it didn't even work.
He paused to share a laugh. I catch her eye. She glances away, grinning mischievously. Smile looks good on her.
Oh, man. Anyway, it gives you a good idea of the kind of shit I'm talking about here. Breaking through opening doors into other worlds. Like that's hard enough, but even once you do, now you're dealing with things way beyond you. Things with their own agendas, and they may not like you very much.
Is that what happened to you?
Me? Nah, extra-dimensional beings love me. Your shadow friends, for example. They wanted us to meet.
Friends? Like plural?
Duh?
I thought there was only one.
Those things travel in packs. You know, they're kind of a phenomena, right? Shadow people, folks see them all the time.
Yeah, I know that.
But you seem to have your own little following. They're interested in you.
Seems like it. Don't understand why, though.
You psychic?
I shake my head.
Maybe in your childhood. Did you ever see shit? Things you thought were like hallucinations?
Nope. Before, well, a couple years ago, I never had any experiences.
Huh. Weird. Usually gifted people sense something at different points in their lives, but you're saying, before whatever happened to you, you were effectively a rubber plug on the end of a spiritual wire? Dead stop.
That's the gist. She's looking at me now, frank and fascinated. I avert my eyes.
Huh. That's really something.
It's not that interesting.
No, actually, it is. Actually, I don't think you realize just how interesting you are, Blake. You know, things like your shadow friends, they're usually not going to focus on any given person. Same as you'd ignore a fly on your windowsill. So the fact that you're not even spiritually gifted to begin with, and they're still following you, that's about the most interesting thing I've heard in a decade.
Lucky fucking me, I guess.
Probably the opposite. My guess is you had some really terrible shit happen to you. Shit that involves other realms. Way more than a fucking haunting. Shit most people can't even imagine. Am I right?
We're not talking about me.
I knew it. And when it was over and you came out on the other side instead of running for cover, holing up and trying to find a bit of fucking normalcy, which, by the way, is the usual human response, you decide to leave everything behind. You decide to wander around the fucking country, chasing exactly the kinds of things that fucked you up in the first place. So of course these shadowy fucks are swarming you. Of course you're experiencing the shit that you are. You fucking earned it, Blake, and all your pain and anger is just icing on the cake.
You're saying I wanted any of this.
No, God, no. Of course I'm not. But you took the bull by the goddamn horns, didn't you? You're earning every scrap of knowledge that comes your way.
I'm not in it for, I don't know, power or whatever.
I know. I think that's part of it. You're genuine. You're kind of, like, pure in a way. I think that attracts things like your shadow people. Entities from different realms.
I jump at the word entity. I've kept it far from my thoughts for years. She notices. She tilts her head, bemused, her eyes probing as if she wants to open me up and read my secrets, but she can't. I shake my head and grunt.
You know not to trust them, right? They probably don't have your best interests at heart.
I hadn't honestly given it much thought.
Bullshit. Anyway, now you have your advice. Be wary of them.
Can we drop the subject?
Sure. What you want to talk about?
Jesus Christ.
Okay. Keep your panties on. Where were we? Oh yeah. My death. So, I got in with a group of, we'll call them magicians. They have all kinds of names they like to use. People like our boy I was talking about. I was a total neophyte, but I was eager to learn. And they liked that. They felt sorry for me. Plus, I was fucking their leader. I'll spare you the details, but that group opened a lot of doors. Someone met someone, you know, who knew someone else who'd heard of this guy up in the Dolomites. Supposedly, he was able to cure what ails ya. At this point, I was really sick. Tired. My joints ached. I was stick thin. But despite all that, we got up enough money and I boarded a plane to Italy and hiked up into the mountains with nothing but a backpack. I never saw my friends again. The magician, my best hope, his name was Massimo. He lived in a mansion in the mountains, about as far from civilization as you can reasonably get. At least reasonable for someone as used to luxury as Massimo. We'd written letters, but I wasn't ready for how young he actually was. Couldn't have been out of his 30s, which, for someone with his kind of reputation, that was kind of crazy. I don't know, though. He told me he had met Al Capone once, so maybe he was older than he looked. I think I knew as soon as I saw him, like, this was a mistake. The smile he gave me when he first opened his door. Almost 30 years, and I still remember that smile. Like I was a piece of meat he was gonna salt and throw in the oven. No one had ever made me feel like that before. He was outwardly friendly, funny. I decided a couple hours in, my first impression was wrong. I mean, there I was, first trip abroad in this beautiful Italian mansion with a guy that literally embodied tall, dark, and handsome. And oh, he was charming me, giving me wine. As the night went on, I got the impression that, that he expected me to sleep with him. Like, that was already decided. So, I did. It felt... I think he was doing some kind of magic during. We were bonded. I can't really explain. I felt it. He said it had to be that way. I had to give myself to him. Totally. For all of this to work. And so I did. I was so hopeful. But to him, I think I was just an experiment. To see if he could do it. He never flat out lied to me. I'll give him that. He'd say like, you want to stay on this earth? Like, yes, obviously. You want to be free of sickness? You want no pain? Yes, yes. And he'd say, forever? And I'd shrug and take it as hyperbole, like, yes, forever? And we shook hands and he took a drop of my blood. And that was it. And before you ask, no, Massimo wasn't the devil or anything, but like, he had power and he knew shit that I don't think was meant for human eyes. Shit from like beyond us. He used to mention something called the Society. Something like that. They had something to do with him learning magic. Or maybe he stole it from him. He was really vague about it, like secretive. But he had a book. He never let me near it. I don't know what it was. Kind of glad I don't. Just the thought of opening that thing. He was so far gone before I even met him. So the ritual, yeah. I spent more than 6 months up in that mansion. We did magic every day. Most of it was prep. There was sigil making and sex and bloodletting and screaming and meditation. I cried a lot. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I was in it. God damn it. And finally, on October 12th, Massimo came to me. I was so sick by then, I could barely get on a bed. He said my pain would end soon, but he also said I'd have to die first.
Yeah. No.
Right? I was such a moron. I trusted him. As we walked to the ritual chamber, he explained, death is the end of a cycle, winter into spring. You must go through it to start again, and you must go through it 9 times, and 9 times 9, and 90 times 9, until even death cannot touch you. In my head, I was like, this sounds like some woo-woo bullshit cliche. Figured he was talking about like a metaphorical death. So we enter the space. Sigils burned into the floor. I strip naked. He's chanting, I don't know what language. He has a beautiful ritual dagger. And he runs the blade up and down my body, and he pauses with its tip against my...
She closes her eyes. She looks like she's torn between pain and ecstasy.
As flesh, he says. As earth. And he stabs me in the heart.
She presses a shaky finger between her breasts, as if by doing so she can conjure the feeling more wholly. I watch her. I let out a shaky breath as she does.
I remember the pain, like nothing I'd ever felt before. I fell. Massimo fell with me, and he stabbed me again. Between the ribs. Again in my side. I remember it scraping against my hip bone. Again in my neck. And that was when I passed out, but he kept going. I know, because I still have his souvenirs.
Lazari raises to her feet and lifts the hem of the t-shirt she's wearing, tugging it over her head and tossing it to the ground. I start to protest, but I fall silent when I see the scars. Dark, raised lines against her pale skin, each about 2 inches long, the width of a large knife. Some are knotted, as if healing came hard. Others are almost perfect in their symmetry. And there's dozens. Jesus. She sits back down wearing only her black bra, not bothering with a shirt. I decide not to press the issue. Her nakedness isn't important. As she turns slightly to grab her cigarette off the windowsill, I see more scars up and down her back, between the jutting bones of her spinal column, peeking up from her pant line. I look away.
It's cute, right?
She watches me intently. I meet her eyes, trying to smile.
It caught me off guard, too. Massimo hadn't mentioned, or, not in so many words, that as flesh, as earth thing. I don't think that was part of the spell. I think he was trying to let me know what was up.
Fucking Massimo.
Right? So that was my first death.
First?
9 times 9, remember? And 90 times 9. I don't remember being dead. When I woke up, we were in another room. Massimo was stalking around muttering. He had blood, like, everywhere. His face, his hands, his clothes. It was still wet. God, it hurt. Massimo turned and saw me, like, finally, he said. I was dead for 7 minutes. Should have been no more than 5. Said it like it was my fault. I think I was in shock. Maybe that's when I saw who he really was. Like the first death broke his hold on me. Washed clean. I saw that he was a monster. But I also... I came back from that, I was awake. I was alive. I felt stronger somehow. So I asked him what was next.
You continued? After all that?
Like, I wasn't the way I am now. I was thirsty for this. Some of the stab wounds had already healed. I thought he knew what he was doing. Next, I think it was, the hanging. That one sucked. You get harder to kill every time, He used rope, made a noose, tossed it over the ceiling beam. I climbed on a stool. I chickened out at the last minute, like, no shit, I don't want it. He kicked the stool out from under me. As breath, he said, as air. I hung for a solid 10 minutes, stopped struggling after like 5. My neck had snapped, but it hadn't killed me. He did a lot of chanting and pacing, burning herbs. I remember shit after I died too, but only a little. Gray, flat plains. I was walking. I was alone. I snapped 2 in a third room. I was told I'd been gone for 2 hours, which was perfect. His faith in me was restored. There was a tub of water like a bathtub. Massimo had me climb in. This time it was as humorous as water. And then he started singing. I had a good voice for a monster, but the song was discordant, like ugly, beautiful. I still hear it sometimes in my head. Drowning was peaceful. It was my favorite, I think. When he pushed my head underwater, his songs distorted. I thought I heard more voices, some like ethereal choir. I saw light in the room behind him. I felt happy, at peace, like this was right. He kept me under until the bubbles stopped. What I saw of death that time, or maybe it wasn't a realm of the dead, but I was wandering dark hallways. A labyrinth. Looked like an old mansion, kind of like a Baroque look. Elaborate. The furniture was old, disused. All the windows were covered. Really heavy brocade curtains. There were tons of doors too, but all of them were locked. Mounds of gray dirt were pushed up against them, like buttressing them from the inside. The windows too. Lots of the curtains had big piles of dirt in front of them. I passed a fireplace at one point. It was filled with dry earth. packed up into the chimney. The place felt insulated, encased, like inescapable, like it had sunk into the ground. I knew there was a door for me somewhere, though, somewhere in all of the infinite empty hallways. A door just waiting to be opened. I had to find it. And that's when I woke up. I was outside. I remember the stars. Massimo had me on a stone slab in the center of his courtyard. I was cold and wet. My eyes stung. There was some kind of weird smell, like a chemical smell. Massimo looked tired. He was ready for this to be over, but we were barely halfway through. His voice was cracking and his hair was all crazy. He looked like he could barely lift his arms. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe he was so tired he made a mistake. I think about that a lot. Maybe I was just meant to live, have my cancer cured. Maybe he didn't mean for me to be the way I am. He looked down at me. Something in his eyes really scared me, unhinged, and his voice was totally shot, hoarse. As spirit, he said, as fire. And a split second before he lit that match, I realized I wasn't soaked in water.
She pauses here, clearly reliving something very painful. I watch her hug herself, bury her face into her knees.
I burned for a long time. A really long time. Longer than, than someone should be able to. It was the worst death, bar fucking none. I don't know how long I was dead that time, but there was endless black. And far away, all around me, a sphere of light. Colors. Like an aurora. Colors I'd never seen. And I was part of them. Or I needed to be. I was struggling to get to them, but I was being dragged away. Back to where I came from, back to the fire. I only looked back once, but I saw it in its fullness. Like a vast eye in the darkness. It watched me go. It could have stopped me, but it just watched me go.
She's crying. I let her. I move next to her. I hold her for a long time until she's ready to start again.
Yeah. Fuck you and your big, strong arms.
Sorry.
No. Don't be. You think after 30 fucking years? Anyway, so then I woke up.
We can stop.
No, we can't. You might be my best chance at a permanent fucking record, so listen the fuck up and keep recording.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Okay, so I woke up. I was still on the stone slab outside, but it was morning. That was it. Ritual over.
Wait. What was the 9 times 90 and all that?
Well, I guess there was some room for hyperbole after all. I wanted to ask Massimo that very question, though, but he wasn't there.
He just left you?
Well, I showered, got dressed. My body wasn't burned up. No idea why. The stab wounds stuck around, but they were already scars by then. None of the other deaths left marks. And I honestly felt great. Like, amazing. Better than I ever had. I was actually happy, despite what I'd just been through. So I wandered the house for a while. Called for Massimo. I wanted to thank him. And I finally found him in his bed, sleeping. All washed and cozy. Pissed me off. He just left me out in the garden like a fucking rake. So I woke him up. He springs out of bed, all panicked. Who the fuck are you? What are you doing in my house? And I'm like, really, dude? We've lived together for 6 months. And he's like, get out. You won't believe me. Says he has no idea who I am. So obviously I'm baffled, hurt. He's threatening the cops. And I'm like, okay. And I go and get my things and I leave.
Just like that?
Well, no. I tried to pop into the library, say bye, just in case, and picture the whole scene over again. Him, like, jumping up, who the fuck are you, blah, blah, blah. Like, not only had the last 6 months never happened, our last interaction hadn't happened either, so I left. I was so scared. I just knew something was very wrong. So, the rules, right? I'm here, a living body. I'm healthy, as far as I've seen. I'm immune to disease. I'm also immune to death. And trust me, I've fucking tried. I've lost track of the suicide attempts. I have no more memories of the death realms, though. I don't think I can go there anymore. So, those are the good things about it. I'm permanent. I'm here on this earth until, I don't really like thinking about that, until I find out how not to be. But I also can't have any effect on the world. I slide in and out of people's minds like water through a sieve. Living people usually ignore me, but if I do manage to get their attention, they forget me as soon as they focus on something else. Sometimes I can get people to talk to me for a while, like we're talking now, hours, but as soon as they leave the room, poof, all memory of it erased. Emails I send tend to get lost or skipped over. Texts are the same. I can call people, but they forget as soon as we hung up. And once my friends and family gave me up for dead, it was like just causing undue distress to even fucking try. Getting back to the US was so hard. I didn't really know the rules then. Navigating Italy, cab drivers kept forgetting I was in the car, no one spoke to me, no one even looked at me. I had to yell to get attention from servers, and then I was the crazy chick who appears out of nowhere and screams at people. I kept telling myself it was all a nightmare, just a horrible nightmare. Or maybe I was in hell. Perfect hell for me, right? So desperate for interaction and approval, ignored for eternity, forgotten. But once I was home, it was worse. I went to my parents, a big mistake. I think I lived with them for a week before it got to be too much. I hated how they jumped every time I came in a room, or sometimes they wouldn't even notice. If I moved shit around, they were always confused and scared, and whenever they saw me there, we had to have the same conversation. Yes, I was back from Italy. No, I hadn't disappeared. No, I wasn't dead. I watched my mom get sadder and sadder. Every day, she thought I was still missing. I watched my dad start drinking. I watched them mount a search operation in another country for a daughter who was right here at home. So I left. I couldn't do it anymore. They had a memorial service for me a few months later. I didn't go. I moved around a lot at first. It's easy to find places to stay when you're a living ghost, but none of them are permanent. You can't pay rent when the landlord doesn't even know he has a tenant. You can't get a job when an employer doesn't remember your interview. I squatted in nice places a lot, but I hated getting walked in on by realtors or prospective buyers. This place? I've been here a year now. I mean, it ain't the Ritz, but at least I don't get bothered.
So, what's your life like, day to day?
Dreamlike, I guess. Transitory. Lonely. Probably it's a lot like how real ghosts feel. You're the first person I've actually talked to in more than a year. It's like, when you affect the world so little, it stops affecting you. I don't really get hungry anymore. I don't really sleep. Every day feels like a dream, except I know I'm in it.
How do you, buy things, these sandwiches?
Oh, it's really easy for me to steal things, Blake.
Well, obviously. Sorry.
Yeah, so, that's my story.
It's really incredible.
You still don't believe me?
No,
No, it's okay. I can tell. I wouldn't believe me either.
I believe you. I'm trying to.
Thanks. That actually means a lot. You'll forget me though, as soon as you leave.
No, I won't. I have this recording.
You'll forget you ever made it. You won't even think to listen.
No, here, listen. We'll listen back to it right now.
Oh, God.
No. You were great. I'll transcribe it right now while I'm here with you, and I'll save it to my computer, and then I'll have a permanent record. I won't be able to forget.
Something will happen to it. It'll get lost or like corrupted.
It's worth a shot, Lazary. I can't forget you. I can't.
It won't. Okay. We can try.
So we do. It's been nearly a year since that night. Do I remember Lazary? No. Does that mean anything? Not necessarily. The story's pretty wild. Pushes even my willingness to believe. But Jesus, it never happened. Where did this transcript come from? I needed more proof. I had a date. Started scanning through my digital records, praying to God that I saved it. There are dozens of files. October 12, 2017 was not amongst them. I cursed. I checked the files on either side. Nope. Used the search function on my computer. Nothing. Finally, in a last-ditch effort, I went to my recycle bin, which hadn't been emptied since the dawn of time. I scrolled for what felt like years, reading every single file name, every chain of numbers I thought there could be. And finally, near the bottom, somehow surrounded by files much older than it, I found her name. Lazary. I was practically shaking as I restored it to my desktop. I opened it. My voice came from the speakers, crystal clear. So you wanted me to visit? I assume you have a story to tell. I waited for Lazary's response, glancing at the transcript. 10 seconds went by. She should have been talking. There was only silence. Doubt it, my voice said in response to nothing. I followed a shadow, and there you were. Frowning, I raised the volume. Just silence. White noise. Then my eardrums were blasted when I started speaking again. I'm a wandering ghost hunter with no home, no friends, no real purpose, so yeah, in that way I guess you're right. Cursing, I listened further. I waited for a long period of silence, glancing at the transcript. I slowly raised the volume until the static of the peripheral noise was all but deafening. I heard myself cough and shuffle occasionally, maybe chuckle at what she was saying. And of course I asked questions. I carried on my side of this recorded conversation. Exactly true to the transcript. There were long pauses where Lazary's voice should have been. But it was just white noise. There was no Lazary there. Except, every so often as the recording progressed, I thought I heard a voice beneath the static, far away, soft, feminine. So faint it could be imagined. But I like to think it's not. I like to think maybe that a year ago I sat down and spoke to a beautiful girl. A girl who was very alive, very real. A girl who was flesh and bone, warm and breathing. A living girl whose recorded voice only left an EVP. She affected me profoundly. And I've completely forgotten her. But as I listened to the static in this recording, listened to it over and over, her soft words became a bit clearer. Her voice begins to strengthen, if only a little. I think I'm starting to remember. I have 2 more for you tonight. At this point, I'd be doing this work for more than a year, and it was great, don't get me wrong. I love being rootless, traveling. I love the scenery, I love the stories. I knew I was just living vicariously through the people I met, not really having my own paranormal experiences. I was just piggybacking on someone else. That was fine. I didn't want ghosts or creatures of my own, and had more than enough of them in an infected town. So maybe you can understand why the shadow people were already starting to piss me off. I mean, yeah, they were startling and noisy and creepy as hell past midnight. But what was really irritating was how attached to me they seemed. I didn't get it. I wasn't special. I wasn't psychic. I wasn't some sort of magnet for supernatural activity. I sought it out, not the other way around. So why me? It started to feel like pressure, like they were waiting for me to see something or find something or connect some kind of dots. Or else why would they stick around? Not like I was getting anything of importance done. I was just floating from case to case. There was no grand conspiracy, nor interwoven plot. And even if there was, I wasn't fucking interested in mystery solving. But I saw shadow people all the time now, whether or not I was working a case, in bed at night, driving, walking through cities. They were everywhere. I'd catch them out of the corner of my eye, usually alone, sometimes in groups of 2 or 3. I'd turn, fully intending on confronting them somehow, and they'd be gone. It got exhausting to feel so watched, and when I was on a genuinely paranormal case, it was worse. They'd be there in the corner during an interview or bumping around my RV at night afterwards. None of the people I interviewed ever saw them. To them, I must have seemed crazy. I was always flinching at shadows, trailing off and staring into space, turning around when I felt one too many close behind me. It wasn't a great look. I wanted them to leave me alone, but I also didn't want to stop chasing the paranormal. It was too fulfilling, too comforting somehow to find camaraderie in people all over the country. To drop in, record a story, see the evidence, then be able to leave it behind. It was addictive. It was therapeutic. It gave me a feeling of control I desperately needed. Except I couldn't control the shadow people. Couldn't get rid of them. Worst of all, I couldn't understand their motives. But I wouldn't let them ruin it for me. I needed this, goddammit. So I kept going. It will start with a short one. It's a little different because I couldn't go interview the witness, Marcus, in person. He's traveling Asia at the moment, but his friend contacted me after finding a Craigslist post of mine and gave me Marcus's info. I didn't have anything to do. It was around Christmas, and I definitely did not plan on being home for the holidays. So I reached out. A few emails later, we were messaging on Skype. Marcus has a ton of stories. This one's the weirdest. Case number 16, the God of the Forest. Location, Ross Island, South Ottoman, India. Date, December 22nd, 2017. Witness name, Marcus W. Relationship to case, tourist, explorer. These are the message logs copied and pasted for your enjoyment. Keep in mind, I never met Marcus face to face, but we Skyped a couple times, and I trust the guy. He's smart, college-aged, and has a passion for world travel. He's been abroad for 1.5 years now, living the dream, as he puts it. Apparently, it started out as a trip to Botswana to meet his extended family, but he fell in love with Africa, then with the Mediterranean, then with Eastern Europe, and most recently with India. The verdict is still out, but he's not sure if he even wants to return home. Another thing about Marcus is, he's got a thing for the weird and haunted. Needless to say, we hit it off pretty fast. I'll let our messages tell the rest.
Well, have you heard of Ross Island?
No, dude, sorry. I've got zero world knowledge.
Nah, it's cool. I don't think it's that popular for tourists, because it's so far out, but you hear about it locally. Kinda urban legend status. When my friend told me about it, I was like, oh yeah, bitch, bring it on.
What's the deal?
It's this tiny island right off the Andamans, like 10 minutes from Port Blair. That's where my girlfriend's family lives. We were visiting for a few nights. I thought they were pretty, conventional, right? But after a couple beers, her bros started showing me these weird old paranormal/alien websites, someone's freaky web ring of fantastical phenomena or something. And obviously that went on into blah 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 ghosts and shit. And I was like, hell yes, this is my kind of dude. And I got to talking about how much I want to visit Chernobyl someday. And he was like, dude, you have to come see Ross Island. Apparently it was colonized by the British in 19th century, started as a penal colony, then became the vacation home of rich officers and shit. This shiny paradise surrounded by prison islands where people are dying and shit left and right. Got shut down in World War II though. Abandoned. Now it's just these ruins of churches and mansions and stores, but all taken back over by the jungle. Creepy looking place. Really cool.
And it's haunted?
Supposedly. Enough people died there. I heard there was a sanatorium there for a while, too. Man, it's got all the cliches.
Dude, tell me you went.
Yeah, obviously, right? I gotta check that shit out. We took the ferry. Spent a couple hours walking around. You should look up pics. It's pretty kinda creepy, though. The church was my favorite. Huge stone church in the middle of the forest, totally overgrown with this big-ass banyan growing right out of the roof. Really fucking cool, dude. We spent a while there. Didn't see any ghosts, though.
I thought you said this one was creepy.
Keep your fucking shirt on. So, the island closes at night, but there's a light show about its history that plays every day around sunset. We were supposed to get back on the boat after that, but I don't know. I think Artie might have bribed someone to let us stay. Artie is my girlfriend's brother, by the way. My girlfriend is Shiley. Anyway, we didn't get back on the ferry to go back to Port Blair, so that's how I figured out why Artie had us pack camping gear. We were gonna stay the night.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought so too. Shiley was pissed. She's more superstitious, though. She got into it after a while, though. 'Cause secretly, she loves creepy shit as much as me. We headed into the forest 'cause the beach wasn't too safe to stay on. The island is owned by the Navy, and they don't fuck around with trespassers. We headed through the trees, way off the beaten trail, trying to find a ruin that wasn't roped off and touristy feeling. We ended up at the foundation of an old house, maybe an old mansion, way off in the woods. Ground was pretty clear and flat, so it seemed like a good place to camp. There was this big fucking banyan growing right out of the center of the foundation, but we figured its branches would be good cover if it started to rain. I don't know if you know what a banyan tree looks like.
Kinda?
Like a bunch of smaller trees all crammed together into one. Very long branches, spaces in the trunk where it looks like smaller trees haven't merged together all the way. Frankenstein trees. They're all over that island. I used to think they were pretty, but I don't know anymore.
'Cause of Ross Island?
Yeah, so we made camp next to that giant-ass banyan, between the old foundation walls. I hated how the holes in banyans looked. There are so many places animals could be hiding and shit. So I put me and Shiley's sleeping bags as far from the tree as I could. I don't know why I didn't ask to move camp. I was getting really creeped out for whatever reason. Figured it was just being in this weird dark jungle at night. I wasn't used to it. Artie said only deer live on the island, but I was imagining huge leopards stalking us through the trees and shit. And I was pretty sure some kind of animal was hiding in the big banyan, civet or a snake or something. Kept hearing rustling coming from inside the trunk. Artie made fun of us for being pussies, but I was all cozy up against the wall of the ruin. Artie, though, laid his sleeping bag right up against the tree trunk. His head was in this real deep hollow. He slept there. Started snoring immediately. Not me. Yeah, I stayed awake and listened to every sound. Even Shiley fell asleep before me. Do you know how fucking dark it gets in a jungle? It's crazy. Something could sneak up on you so easy. And all night I was sure that was exactly what was gonna happen. I felt like we weren't welcome there. Maybe it was because we were trespassing. I don't know. After a while, I finally fell asleep, and I had this dream. Very, very vivid. I remember it perfectly. I dreamed I was up in the banyan tree at the center of our camp, very high near the top, and I was looking down at all of us laying down there watching us sleep. Then I swung my view downwards to get closer, and as I did, I remember there was this loud creaking noise. Creak. If you can imagine. Sounded like the hull of a ship creaking, huge pieces of timber being bent and stretched. Then I was looking down at Shiley and me sleeping next to each other, and I got really close to Shiley's face, checked her out. And then I got really close to my own face, checked me out. Then I noticed Artie. I hadn't noticed him. He was so close to the trunk and I didn't see him before I swung out to look. And creak! I went to check him out. I noticed he was leaned right up against the tree trunk, touching the wood of the banyan. And for some reason, when I saw that, I got really angry. Like, how dare he, you know? None of those were my feelings, me, Marcus. They were all something else's feelings, but I still felt them anyway. In the dream. Does that make sense?
I know what you mean.
I was so pissed at Artie for touching that banyan tree, dude. Angrier than I've ever felt in my life. Artie had this amulet he wore for luck, some Hindu god, Ganesh, I think. Never took it off. His grandpa gave it to him. And in my dream, I saw it around his neck while he was laying there. Kinda hard to miss this big gold elephant. It pissed me off even more. Here was this fucker sleeping right up against my tree. Or my body, maybe? I don't know, it wasn't clear. Anyway, this fucking guy was sleeping against me, but he was wearing the symbol of another god. That was kind of the thought process, not word for word. I couldn't read this thing's mind, but that was the feeling. Jealousy. Anger. This part I couldn't really see through the darkness, but something long and pale came down. Maybe another part of the tree, branch or vine. It wrapped around Artie's amulet, started to pull, and then ripped it off his neck. Artie didn't wake up to that and just mumbled and rolled over. But once I had the necklace, I gathered myself up, and with a huge creak sound, I don't know how to describe this. I flew upwards into the branches of the tree. No, that's not right. I wasn't flying. I was being propelled on a really long neck, like I was a face on the end of a vast tree branch. Anyway, I got up to the top of the tree, and there was this weird hole up there between the branches. I carried Artie's amulet up there and looked in. I think it was a nest or cubby hole, and sitting inside it, its back up against the opposite wall, was the body of a man. It made me sad just to look at him. He seemed so pathetic, all curled up on himself. Legs pulled up to an emaciated chest, bony arms wrapped around him. His fingers looked stiff and tense, claw-like. He'd been up in that tree for years, centuries. His skin was desiccated, shrunken, ancient. The branches of the banyan had wrapped around his limbs, grown into his skin, merged with him. His head was visible, though, just a skull encased in a thin layer of mummified brown skin. His eyes were gone, picked out by birds a long time ago or eaten by insects. The head was tilted way back against the trunk behind him, and his mouth was open very wide, like a silent scream, lips drawn back from his teeth. And dude, whatever's eyes I was looking through in that dream, it loved the mummy. A really deep, nurturing kind of love. I felt that. It stared at him for a long time, adoring. After a while, it took Artie's amulet and dangled it over the corpse's gaping mouth like a bird feeding her babies. And then it let it go. I heard the dry rattle as the necklace hit the corpse's teeth and slid into its mouth and down its throat. And then a plunk when it landed in its hollow stomach. There was a second where I waited, anticipated. And then somewhere in the base of the tree, somewhere down by the roots, this deep, rattling groan began to reverberate. It started out low, but rose in pitch as it traveled up, all the way to the top till it came wailing out of the mummy's open mouth. And that's where the dream ended. I woke up
Good question. In the dream, were you the one making decisions, or were you just watching?
It was more than just watching. Like I said, I could feel all the emotions, but nah, I wouldn't say I was making any decisions either. Just along for the ride in a very connected, empathic way.
Okay. What happened next?
Well, I woke up. Artie was screaming.
Shit.
Yeah, my words exactly. He was screaming bloody fucking murder, laying in the center of the campsite, killed in on himself. Shyly and I ran to him. He was holding his arm. There was a ton of blood. His forearm was completely snapped, shoulder torn out of socket. All his fingers were broken.
What? How?
No idea. He said he woke up to excruciating pain and his arm was just destroyed.
Jesus.
Yeah, so we're scrambling to break camp and we have no idea what happened. Like, was it an animal attack? Doesn't matter. Artie's bleeding and we need to find him some help ASAP. I'm wrapping a shirt around his arm, trying not to spew. Then Shiley is like, holy fuck, where's the tree? And we all stop for a second, look up, and that fucking huge-ass banyan that was in the center of our camp? Yeah, it's not there anymore.
What the fuck?
Artie was delirious, in pain, but he said something that stuck with me. He said, my hand was in there. My hand was in there. I asked him about it later. He said that he had his hand between two intertwined banyan branches when he fell asleep, tucked securely between them.
Help me out here. What the fuck does that mean?
It means maybe when the tree moved, Artie's hand got caught in the branches. And when it pulled away very hard and fast.
The tree broke 80's arm.
Dude, I know it sounds crazy, but that banyan was there when we fell asleep. And when we woke up, it was gone. And Artie's arm was fucking ruined.
Did it just walk away?
I don't know, man. But there's one more thing. And it's the craziest thing I've ever seen before or since. It was getting light when we left the forest. Out onto the beach. Artie was really pale, but we managed to radio for help. Anyway, he's all right now. But as we were running toward the dock, I looked back into the forest, and I thought I saw something way up high in the trees. Near the very top of the branches, it looked like it was floating out of the darkness there. But I got the impression of something huge behind it, holding it up. A gigantic wooden mask. It was pale and round, big black circles for eyes and a tiny crescent for a mouth, like a shy smile. Otherwise, it was totally smooth and featureless. It had an ancient feeling to it, really primitive. I kind of stopped running because it was such a shock to see so high up, coming out of the darkness of the canopy, and it noticed me. There was a creaking sound, the same one I heard in my dream, and the mask tilted to one side, like it was trying to get a better look. Then there was another creaking sound, and whoosh, it disappeared back into the forest.
What the fuck?
Yeah, all true. Swear to God.
So 80 was okay?
Yeah. Well, he's having his second surgery next week, but his arm will be okay. Shiley said something weird, though. After we were safe and had a sec to calm down, I told her about my dream. And she said she dreamed the exact same thing. Every detail.
Weird.
She thinks it was something really spiritual. Like some kind of protector of the island. A lost god. I don't agree with that, though.
What do you think?
Dude, I don't fucking know what that mask was. I don't fucking know what that mummy was. I don't fucking know what it wanted with us or why it hated Artie so much, but I'm never going back to find out.
So admittedly, Marcus's story was more strange than horrifying. But I thought it might interest you guys. And while he's on the subject of forests, let's get into our next creepy tale. Early this spring, I was fucking around in one of those little towns dotting Lake Huron's coast. and I decided on a whim to go get a drink at this divey tavern. Well, to be honest, it wasn't a whim. I was driving by and I spotted a cloaked, shadowy figure through the swirling flakes of snow, standing near a street lamp in the parking lot. Same old song and all that. As frustrating as I found their constant presence, I knew a sign when I saw it. By the time I parked, the shadow was gone. I wanted a beer anyway, so I went inside. A few drinks in, I got to chatting with the locals. One group of regulars in particular drew me in. A dozen gruff old guys, who the bar was a second home. Of course, after a while, my little hobby came up, and they called it chasing spooks. They also said that I was a damn fool for digging into that kind of shit. So I asked for their stories. They had plenty of good ones. But here's the one that stuck with me. Case number 18, Metsan Peto. Location, East Town, Michigan. Date, April 23rd, 2018. Witness name, Ari J. Relationship to case, sole witness, or victim. Ari is a gruff, weathered man with a gray beard and a piercing blue gaze. A long, jagged scar runs over one eye. He tells me he's nearly 80, but doesn't look it. He's over 6'6", with a muscular tone of a man half his age. If I look this good when I'm 87, I'll start believing in God. As humorless as Ari appears at first glance, the guy is a riot. Over half a dozen drinks of dark black ale, and he regales me with stories of his time working as a logger in the dense forests of northern Michigan. He shows me the jumble of scars which run down both arms, each knot of flesh with a history of its own. Judging by how the other patrons react to him, Ari seems to be a bit of a local celebrity. I start recording when he starts talking about his scars, thinking I might catch something interesting. I've been recording conversations with strangers for months. It's almost second nature now.
Yeah, I tell ya, at that particular camp, it was a piece of crap. As far as safety regulations went anyway. I'm surprised I didn't lose my whole blessed arm.
Your arm's one thing. I want to know about that big ugly fucker on your face. The laughter around the table dies down slowly as Ari stares me down pensively. Apparently I said the wrong thing. Ari lets me sweat for 30 more seconds before his face breaks into a wide, crinkly grin. He reaches up and runs a big, square finger down the scar over his eye.
Man, you guys take it so damn seriously. It's been more than 50 fucking years, for crap's sake.
Well, what happened?
Well, you said you wanted scary stories. Alright, but let me tell you. Now, this would have been maybe 58, 59. I was back home from a logging trip in mid-October. It was already getting fucking cold up north, so I was happy to leave off for a few months and find some work in town. My wife and I, at the time, we had this little cabin out in a big old piece of land. A couple of acres of forest, a little creek, even a swimming hole. A beautiful, beautiful place. Well, I'd lived there since I was a boy. My parents left it to me when they passed. I tell ya, I knew those woods like the back of my hand. I played in them as a kid, hunted in them, camped in them, all over too. Every single acre, every fucking rock and tree for miles, back of my hand. Which, I guess is why what happened that October was just so damn strange.
Oh, come on, don't leave me in suspense. If it scares you, it's gotta be good.
Well, it was, like I said, just strange. It happened one afternoon when my wife was in bed with the flu. We took our old dog on a long walk every evening. We had a trail that we followed that took you about a mile into the forest, then looped you back around near the cabin. The dog loved it too. He was a good boy. Well, the wife isn't in any shape to go walking, not in that October chill anyway, sick as she is. So I bundle myself up and go out alone. I didn't mind, truth be told. I liked walking alone on occasion, and it gave me time to think and all that. So, my dog and I walk into the woods around sunset, along the trail that I've walked hundreds of times, mind you, but thousands of times in fact. I mean, my fucking boot prints might as well be stamped into the ground there. The dog's as happy as can be, barking and shooting through the undergrowth, chasing birds and whatnot, and it's nice for the first bit. Peaceful. The thing I should mention about this trail is, for the first quarter mile or so, you're going deeper into the woods. It's all uphill. It's an easy slope, nothing too steep, but we like to complain about it. Anyway, once you get to the crest of the hill, you can look back and see our little cabin off in the distance through the trees. We always did that, kind of a tradition. In fact, we made a game out of it. No looking back until you get to the top of the hill. But that night, I don't know. The sun was almost down at that point, and the woods were just real quiet. Maybe it was just because my wife wasn't with me, but I started feeling a little spooked. I told myself that I was being stupid, but it just felt weird. So I stopped before I even reached the top of that first hill, and I turned around and smiled at the lamplight through the windows way off between the trees, and then I just kept walking. Now, this might have been where I fucked up. I don't know, I don't think I'll ever know for sure, but when I got to the hill crest, I paused again, and I saw a long stick poking up out of the ground next to the trail. It was a perfect walking stick, I thought. A bit of cleaning, maybe some whittling of the knots and all that, but it was a kind of black sort of wood I'd never seen before. Really pretty, mind you. Anyway, I didn't think about it, and I just took hold of the stick and yanked. It was buried pretty deep in the ground, though, and it didn't want to come out easy, so I gave it another yank, and still stuck. So I pushed on it and twisted it and pulled it. But finally, I kind of got it, and I kind of ripped it out of the ground. I still remember the sound it made coming out, though. A kind of a tearing, sucking sound. And hanging from the end of the stick was what looked to me like a tangle of thick black hair, maybe? It was coated in mud, so I figured that there were some kind of weird roots or something. Something odd, though, was that a sizable portion of the underbrush around the stick sort of jerked and rustled when I did it. Almost like a horse shaking off dust. Like I just yanked out a hangnail of the forest floor or something. I thought maybe I'd disturbed some kind of underground root system or something, but for a second there, it gave me the heebie-jeebies, that's for sure. Well, I ignored the kind of creepy feeling and just went on my way, a new walking stick in hand. I shook the mud off and scraped the hair roots away, and it worked pretty damn fine. So I started heading down the hill. It's getting darker, and I'm whistling along, and after a while, I noticed the old dog is right at my heels. That's pretty strange in and of itself, because usually, when he's in our woods, he's always off like a rocket, checking out his territory and all. But now he's sticking so close, and his body's low to the ground too, tail between his legs. He looks like he's getting scolded or something. Or I guess what he looked like was scared, but I didn't think like that at the time. So I stopped to kind of check on him, see if he's got his nose bit by a badger or something. He looked fine, but he was whimpering now too, and I got to looking around to see if there's a big animal stalking us or something, and I noticed something really strange. I told you before that those woods were a second home to me. I knew them inside and out, and we were still on the trail, same trail I walked every evening. But now, looking around, nothing seemed familiar. I kept walking though, thinking that I'd see some kind of landmark. There should have been a boulder over here, a certain tree stump over there, you know, but nothing. The trail was still there, but it just looked different. More rocky and narrow. But it was impossible. Even if I'd taken a wrong turn off the beaten track, I knew these woods. And I just felt completely, what's the word? Disorientated. Completely out of my element, you know? And the dog is scared stiff too, hackles raised, whining. I look off into the dark woods, and they seem to stretch on for miles. We're heading downhill, but I think after a while it should be flattening out by now. The woods aren't that hilly, you know, and we've been on a downward slope for a long damn while now. A long damn while. But I look ahead of me and all I see is more downhill slope. Not only that too, but it's getting steeper. And well, it's almost like a fucking mountain trail now. The slope is that steep. That's when I stop and I look, and the forest is just completely silent. Full dark now, and not a fucking star in the sky. But can't even see the moon. I hope that I just feel out of sorts because of how fucking dark it is, so I call the old dog and we start back the way we came, back up the hill. Except, now, here's the funny thing. The uphill grade is steep at first, but as I'm walking, I notice it starts to level out, and before I'm even back at the crest of the first hill, well, suddenly, I'm heading downwards again. Like, I just went over a fulcrum of a giant seesaw or something. I even see what I think are the lights of my house, way down below me, much further away than they should be. It felt like if I slipped, I'd just tumble on down the trail for hours before I hit it.
What?
Yeah, that's what I said. I walked downhill at least half a mile, turned around and went straight back the way I came. No fucking possible way I was walking downhill again. I didn't know what else to do, so I just kept walking. Down, 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 and the grade just kept getting steeper and steeper until I was more sliding than walking. Ahead of me, or should I say below me, sort of, the forest was darker than I'd ever seen. I got the feeling I wasn't wanted there, wasn't welcome. Like I'd done something bad and my woods had turned against me. But I swear, every so often, I thought that I could see the lights of home, poking through the branches here and there, and I was just too damn scared to walk into the woods on either side though, so I just kept on the trail. The old dog was following me, silent. I tried switching back a few times, going back uphill, but every time the ground would end up leveling out and taking me back down again. It was like the forest was shifting around me, so subtle that I couldn't even see the changes. This went on for, I don't know, hours. It got to the point where it felt like the sun should be rising, in fact, but the sky just stayed this blanket of black. The forest should be waking up by now, but it was just completely silent. I looked up for a rooftop, a chimney, something in the distance, and I thought I caught glimpses sometimes, but I was never sure. Was that a shack, a mirage? What if that never was my house in the first place? That made my head swim a bit. Is this dementia, a stroke? But then I started hearing, way off in the distance I started hearing, the occasional crack of branches breaking and leaves rustling. And I kept walking, and there were more cracks. They were a bit closer now, a twig snapping underfoot, like something was moving through the woods. I kept walking, the trail's getting steeper, and again, more cracking. I hear some branches break off the trees behind me, way high up in the trees, mind you. I keep walking, kinda hurrying now, and there's a bigger crack. It's to my left, and gotta be only a couple of yards off the trail, too. And boy, it's something big, something huge, in fact, moving around in the darkness. I get a real bad watch sort of feeling, like there's eyes on me from all sides. Hateful, really hateful eyes. So I stop still to listen, and nothing. There's nothing. But then the dog starts barking. He spotted something up ahead of us, something down the hill that I can't see. And I tell you, it's got him scared. He's yowling up a storm, and I gotta go grab his collar, but he suddenly rips out of my grasp and takes off down the trail. And now I start shouting, because at this point, I'm damn near shitting my pants. And I run after him, but I'm sliding and stumbling, and the fucking trail is so steep, and I end up tripping over some kind of rock or log, and before I know it, I'm flying headfirst down the hill. It's a long fall, and just wham, I land hard, and I eat gravel, almost knock me out cold. My face is all scraped up, but what really did the most damage is that fucking black walking stick. I hadn't noticed before, but the damn thing was covered in thorns, I guess, or spikes, or quills maybe, but they laid flat until you rubbed them the wrong way. But don't know how my hands weren't all cut up, but when I fell against it, those things tore my face up from my chin to my forehead. Hurt like a bitch too. Almost blinded me, in fact. So I sit up and I'm dizzy. Blood's pouring down my face and I can still hear the old dog barking up in the distance. I take a second to get my bearings and I'm just getting to my feet when I hear the old dog yelp and go quiet.
Jesus.
Yeah, he was a good old boy, that one. But anyway, now I'm alone in these dark woods and I'm more lost than ever, barely clinging on to what feels like a fucking cliffside. I'm in hostile territory and boy do they know I'm here. And there's something big and vicious right up ahead of me, down the trail, coming towards me now too. So I pick up that thorny fucking stick, bloody, nearly blind in one eye, and I just turn tail and run. Back up the slope, away from the noise, was all I was thinking, as fast as I can, using the stick for balance. And behind me, I hear the sound of fucking hooves. But not exactly hooves. They sound more fleshy. Padded hooves, maybe. Massive though, stumpy feet beating against the ground, coming right for me. Something big, something huge. Bigger than a deer, for sure. Bigger than a horse too. Big enough to kill a full-grown Rottweiler like an afterthought. And it's picking up the pace, full-on galloping now, full speed. Gigantic fucking flesh stumps just coming right for me. I don't turn to look, I just keep running, and just like before, the ground levels out, but it's real quick this time. I barely get 10 yards, and I feel myself heading back downhill, and I think, oh fuck this. So I take the black walking stick, and I scream at the thing that's following me. I scream, if you want it back so bad, just take it. And I chuck the damn stick as far as I can into the woods, and then I just run the other way. I don't stop for at least an hour, but the slope of the ground just never steepens, and after a while, the sky starts to get lighter. The woods start to get familiar again. And I end up making it back home, and you should have seen the wife's face when I come screaming in around 4 a.m, bloody and babbling with no dog in sight. More scared than I've ever seen her, before or since.
How long were you gone?
Look who knows his folklore, eh? Well, I was actually missing for 2 weeks.
Jesus.
Yeah, they sent out search parties and everything. They didn't find a damn thing besides the collar of that old dog. It was hanging from the highest branch of a tree, not 10 yards from the house. And well, we stayed on for a while, but it was just never the same. But the land was haunted now. We'd find gigantic animal tracks every now and then, and each big as a platter, maybe bigger even. It vaguely looked like deer hooves too, but they came in groups of 6, like this deer had an extra set of legs or something. Can you imagine the fucking animal attached to those things? Fucking lucky I never saw it. We'd also find big clumps of black hair up in the trees too. Not witch moss, mind you. I know what that looks like. This was definitely hair, like thick horsehair or something. And Every so often, we'd hear the old dog barking off in the distance too. I told my wife never to follow the sound, but that old dog was dead, and no doubt of that in my mind, no doubt. So, whatever was out there, it was trying to lure us back in. I think back to that walking stick a lot, coming out of the ground like that. The more I think about it, the more I realize that the thing wasn't made of wood. It felt more like a quill or a claw or something. Something from an animal though, for sure, but I couldn't say what it was made out of, to be honest. But then again, maybe I'm just changing up my memory, thinking about those hooves and all. Maybe it was a stick, after all. I don't know. When my wife got pregnant, though, the hoof print started appearing closer to the house, circled around it in the night, and we'd hear it sometimes through the windows, just breathing and huffing like a big horse, stomping around on its padded fleshy hooves. Oddly enough, though, we never saw it, though. And that's when we left. It was just too dangerous, and I didn't know what it wanted with the baby. And, well, that's the end of it. We moved south a ways, but ended up back in Michigan. I never had another haunt come for me again. Once was enough. Still have the scars from this one.
Will you ever go back?
To the old property? No way in hell, boy. Once a place gets tainted like that, it doesn't ever get untainted, And I'm not telling you where in this great state the forest lies, so don't start asking, okay?
We laugh. The tension at the table breaks for a moment until I glance over to the door. There's a shadowy figure there like a silent sentinel. I stare at it until Ari leans towards me, pointing, a crease between his eyebrows. He delivers his final word on the subject.
Listen, you don't fuck with the forest, kid. You don't take what's not yours to take, because, trust me on this one, it'll fuck you right back.
That night, tossing and turning in the back of the RV, I couldn't get Ari's tale out of my mind. It was something out of traditional folklore, some variant of Rip Van Winkle, a passage into an alternate world, a spiriting away. It was not something I'd ever heard from someone who actually experienced it. It wouldn't let me sleep, even drunk as I was. I stared at the low ceiling and considered discounting it as a lie. But with everything I knew, with what I had been through, who the hell was I to doubt? Maybe some fairy tales were true. When I drifted off, I dreamt of a door. Commonplace. Gray metal. Set into a blank, whitewashed wall. Could have been any door, anywhere. But looking at it, I was filled with a dread, the likes of which you only know in dreams. Something was behind it. Something vast and primal. It brought to mind the darkness of the hole in that apartment basement. The endlessness of Ari's forest. The mystery of the thing in the lake. And all that protected me was a few inches of cold steel. I wanted to back away. I stepped closer instead. And as I watched, the handle was pushed down from the inside. The latch clicked, the door creaked open. I woke up. And hovering above me, inches away, was a face made of darkness. I tried to yell, but I couldn't. The shadow man, the one who wore the brim black hat, had his hand placed firmly on my chest. Its pressure there was incredible. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. And God, his face. Solid black, a living shadow, yeah. But for the first time I saw his features clearly. Two perfectly round, circular eyes with pinprick pupils. A mouthful of square ivory teeth. No nose, nothing else. Just eyes and teeth, stark white against the inky black field of his face. He stared at me for a long moment, his face too close, giving me an unsettling grin. With his lidless eyes so round, his pupils so tiny, it didn't look much like a smile at all. Just the facsimile of one. Then he backed away, removing his hand. I gasped in a gulp of air, but found I still couldn't move. Okay, I thought. Okay, it's just sleep paralysis. I'd never had it before, but I'd heard about it. Even knowing that, the feeling of dread wasn't going away. Like it had escaped my dream and permeated the waking world. It hung heavy in my chest. I slid my eyes to the Hat Man, now standing by the corner of the bed. So tall his head brushed the ceiling. I just knew. The way he was showing his teeth, the way his tiny pupils were focused directly on me. He was about to attack. He and his minions had been stalking me for months, and it all led to this. Any moment now, he'd swoop down upon me, helpless here in my bed, and the rest of the shadowy figures would emerge too, from the cracks in the walls and the ceiling where they were watching, waiting. And the Hat Man would open that toothy mouth of his, and it would just keep opening. I met the Hat Man's gaze, those unnerving white spheres, determined to at least be looking at him when he attacked. And for a long moment, he didn't move. Then he spread his arms, and his teeth began to part, and my courage broke. With a Herculean effort, I managed to turn my head away from him and squeeze my eyes shut, waiting for the bite. Nothing happened. I opened my eyes again, to sunlight filling the RV. It was morning. The Hat Man was gone. I dreamt that door a lot after that. It was always the same. I'd always wake up right as it began to crack open. Luckily, though, the Hat Man never got that close to me again. Keep in mind, what I'm about to tell you only happened yesterday. I'm still trying to figure some shit out. I was driving from a visit with my family in California and cut north through Oregon. My plan was to reach I-90 and then head east, Maine or something. I had a long way to go and I wanted to get there fast. I fished a cig out of my pack, jammed it between my teeth, and lit it. My foot pressed steadily down on the accelerator. Around then, someone ran into the middle of the road. Shit! I was going too fast to stop, so I swerved instead, off the highway, up a short hill, and onto an intersecting road. I pulled over, my adrenaline sky high, and climbed out of the RV. Jesus, whoever that was, they were so lucky I hadn't hit them. I peered down the short incline, trying to see the idiot from the darkness. I didn't think that it was a deer or an animal. The shape was human. They couldn't have gotten far, and the way I felt just then, I was going to give them a piece of my mind. The shout was already on my lips, but it fizzled away to a groan. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Over a dozen shadowy figures, not 20 yards away, were standing shoulder to shoulder in a line across the highway. I was willing to bet the thing that ran across the road had been one of them. Seriously? I yelled. They already started down the hill. You could have fucking killed me! I made it halfway down the incline between the highway and the access road when I realized they weren't retreating. And Jesus, they were tall, each more than 7 feet, solid black humanoid masses forming a barrier between me and the road that I've been traveling. I was being sequestered. Still pissed, I stomped a few more yards before stopping again, unsure of what I had planned. They towered before me, silent. What? I said. What are you gonna do if I turn around and head north again, huh? Get noisier? Send me some weird dreams? Watch me even harder? There was movement in the line of shadow people. It surged and bent, and one of them stepped forward, breaking the ranks. The Hat Man. He kept his distance. I kept mine. That one in particular, he worried me. He was taller than the others, more imposing. He was the only one who had a face. Small white circles for eyes above a row of gleaming white teeth. But it was more than that. Something about him wasn't right. The way he moved, maybe, or his posture. The way those pupils slid around on his two white scleras. It made me think that he was something more than just a shadow person, whatever they were to begin with. Something disguised as one. And the thing underneath was much worse. So when he lifted a massive arm and pointed to the access road headed west, when his pearly grin widened, I backed down. I took his advice. 2 hours later, I found myself in Eugene, Oregon. And that's where my last case begins. I was in town for an hour before I found it, or it found me. I wasn't looking either. I decided if I saw a shadowy figure, I'd head firmly in the opposite direction. Fuck that little display out on the highway. That was bullying, strong-arming, and I was far enough removed by then to be pissed about it. Since it was past midnight, I went to the nearest Denny's for some late-night pancakes. The only other customer was a pale, drawn-looking man in a corner booth. He was around my age, early 30s, but he looked like shit. Dark circles, nervous, dressed nice, though, clearly not homeless. The waitress knew him. She was surprisingly candid, something I seemed to bring out in people. I learned the guy was just hired to teach 10th grade at the local high school. It was rough. Some weird things were going on at the school, she said. You hear rumors, she said. But she wasn't about to go into it, no sir. But why don't I go talk to him? Since I'm so curious, why don't I buy him a coffee? Couldn't help myself. Like I mentioned, this lifestyle is addictive. I hear the phrase weird happening, my ears perk up, and don't lie flat. Kicking myself for knowing this was exactly what the goddamn hat man wanted, I nevertheless moved over to the young teacher's table. His wariness melted away almost immediately. He even seemed eager to talk. Maybe he thought I could help. I don't know. And hell, in the end, maybe I did. Case number 20, The Door. Location, Eugene, Oregon. Date, September 13th, 2018. Witness name, William K. Relationship to case, newly hired high school teacher. We are in Will's third-story classroom after last bell. It's not a huge school, and he's close with the community. He's alum, after all. 4 years here as a kid, and he liked it enough to come back for work. Not many of us can say the same thing about our high schools. He sits behind his desk at the front of the room. I lean against a student's desk opposite. I already know a little about the anomaly from our conversation at Denny's, so I start recording immediately. So tell me a little about it. Was it like this when you went here?
No way, man. No way. If I'd have known why Beekman left, I never would have taken the job.
Beekman is not his predecessor's real last name. In fact, all last names here changed to protect identities. So when did it start?
Last year, far as I heard. Around homecoming, maybe. That's when Beekman first started talking about it.
What was he saying?
Well, this used to be his classroom, right? He taught here for maybe 10, 15 years. This was his room for the last 10. Last year, right when school started up, apparently he mentioned Judy Clark. She teaches 9th grade down the hall. Beekman mentioned finding a door in this room that he'd never seen before. Judy says that was her first inkling something might be wrong with him. At first she thought it was some kind of delusion. I mean, there was no way he just found a new door in his classroom. He spent pretty much every day in here for a decade, right? He wouldn't have missed it.
Right.
Beekman insisted though. Judy's like, sure, okay, whatever. Kind of worried about him. And then one night, she was here late, grading papers, and Beekman bursts into her classroom and drags her down the hall. And he shows her. You can't miss it.
Will pointed to the blank white wall at the back of the classroom, devoid even of papers or poster board. There's definitely no door there. I look back at him and raise an eyebrow.
No, I'm not crazy. The door isn't there right now, but it will be.
The door moves?
Well, I don't know about moves, but it definitely isn't there most of the day. As far as I can tell, it shows up around 6 p.m. and disappears around 9. Not on the nose. It's not perfect. But that's the pattern.
You've seen it then?
Oh, multiple times. Scared the hell out of me at first. Earlier this summer, I was in here getting lesson plans ready, decorating. I'd heard about Beekman, like vaguely. I think the rest of the staff were told to keep pretty hush-hush, especially around the new guy, worried I wouldn't take the job. But yeah, I'm sitting up here at my front desk, right? And I glance up, and there's a door there. Definitely wasn't one before. I had a framed poster hanging where it appeared, sheared in half, right in the line of the door frame. plastic and all. Perfectly clean cut. No idea where the rest of it is. It just disappeared.
Jesus. I glanced back at the wall again and nearly jumped out of my skin. There's still no door there, but the Hat Man has suddenly appeared, stark black against the white plastic wall. I curse him under my breath.
What's up? You okay?
I turned back to Will, gazing at me concerned. I don't finish my sentence. It's clear Will can't see the shadow figure. He would have said something. Nothing, just thinking about the poster. The door destroys things hanging on that wall. Will withdraws a thin, worn leather notebook from the top drawer of his desk and leafs through it.
Only if they occupy the same space it does when it appears. You can hang stuff on the door while it's there. I never have, but Beekman left notes.
How about opening it?
Yeah. Here. He says you can hang things on it while it's there, right? But it'll take them when it disappears.
Is it locked?
Oh, God, no. Beekman never did. I never will. I don't think so. His notes are vague, but you'll probably understand when it shows up. There's something about it, right? Makes you not want to go near it. And definitely never open it. Like, that's the worst thing I could imagine doing.
So no one's ever tried?
I guess Beekman could have, but he never wrote about it. But maybe that's why things got so crazy around here, right?
The doors affected the rest of the school?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've only seen some of it, but you hear stories. This floor, especially. Weird stuff happens all the time. Beekman wrote down everything he could.
Give me a couple examples.
Sure. Okay. Started out as little things. All his desks were rearranged every morning when he walked in. Other teachers complained about that too. Stuff goes missing all the time. Papers, supplies, personal items. Once, someone lost their phone. And they kept hearing it buzz, but couldn't tell where it was coming from, right? Well, they finally found it above one of the ceiling tiles in here. People's phones in general, or computers, they glitch, they break. The whole building is a dead zone. Reception is terrible. You can try it.
I take out my cell phone and go to unlock it. My thumbprint won't register. I type in the passcode, it enters, but then it freezes and I can't get past my lock screen. I mess with it for a few more seconds before I simply turn it off. Weird.
I know. It's the worst in this room. Half the time, I can't get my computer to turn on. My phone's barely usable. At least kids can't text during class though, right?
But wow, that's pretty extreme. Unable to help myself, I glanced back at the Hat Man. He's still there. Silent and unmoving. I feel his eyes on the back of my neck.
Yeah, and that's just the harmless stuff. A lot of it is less harmless. Kids get hurt a lot here. Lots of accidents. No one's died, but we worry it's only a matter of time. One girl, her hair started falling out. Poor kid. There was no reason for it. By the end of the week, she was totally bald. Still hasn't grown back. One kid forgot how to write. Oh no, he could write, but it was some Aramaic-looking language no one could translate. Could have been a prank. But I know that kid. He's not the type. Another one that really sticks out is the day one of the classes couldn't stop laughing. That was Judy's room. Scared the hell out of her. Apparently, one of the kids started laughing, right? And he couldn't stop. And it just sort of spread through the room, till everyone was just hysterical. Went on for at least half an hour. And I'm talking forced, painful, can't breathe type of laughing, where you wish you could stop, but someone's tickling you, and it hurts, and you think you're going crazy. They say laughter is a panic response. I think about that a lot. There's also... I talked about this with a couple of my peers, and we know it wasn't like this before. Not when I went here, for sure. It's... Yeah, we still have time. It's easier if I just show you. You mind?
Not at all. Will leads me out of the classroom and down to the front entrance. We enter into the balmy air of early evening. He stops us right in front of the school's main doors and points down at the ground.
See?
What am I looking at?
Look how the pavement lines up with the doors. That gap, there.
I squat down to get a closer look. The school has a long concrete walkway from the street all the way up to the front doors, except it doesn't line up perfectly, or even well. There's a large wedge-shaped gap between the walkway and the wall of the school, about 6 inches wide, where you can see the soil of the ground underneath. Okay. Bad architecture, or...
No, man. It wasn't like that before. The walkway used to line up with the doors. Now, that gap, it's like...
Like the school moved.
Yeah, like turned on its axis, just a few degrees, but...
The whole building rotated counterclockwise.
Yeah, dude. Crazy, right? That gap keeps getting bigger, too. A couple of weeks ago, it was hardly big enough to see. Just a crack. Now, it's very noticeable. I don't know. There's some weird spatial dimensional stuff going on here, right? Compasses don't work in the building either.
And a door appears in a certain classroom at a certain time every day.
Yeah, maybe the whole building's an anomaly, right? Like the Twilight Zone.
Getting to my feet. I gotta tell you, this is some of the most concrete shit I've ever seen. The phone, SCAP. I hear a lot of stories, but not many of them come with proof like this. I mean, if the door shows up...
It will. It always does. Let's head back up so we're in the room when it appears.
We head back into the school. I step gingerly over the gap between the door and the walkway. As we're walking up the stairs...
I've never managed to watch the door appear. Same as no one ever really feels the school turn. If you watch the wall, nothing happens. But you look away, right? Or inevitably, you blink. And there it is.
Has anyone ever tried to film it?
Beekman did. The camera glitched out.
Of course. How about the authorities? Cops, or...
The principal wants to keep this on the DL. I don't know who could help anyway. Eugene doesn't exactly have the X-Files unit. Though by now, rumors are getting around. And with what happened to Beekman...
We enter Will's classroom. I glance immediately in the empty back wall. No door yet. But the Hat Man's still there, in the same position we left him. While Will is distracted, taking a seat at his desk, I flip the shadow figure off and turn my back on it. What did happen to Beekman?
It's all in here. It's his last entry. Tonight, I came to my classroom after a meeting in the teacher's lounge. My door was locked, which I had not done. I looked through the window.
I glanced back at the door in the classroom. Like many school doors, it has a narrow window set into it.
I looked through the window and saw one of my students, Olivia. Oh, he's talking about Olivia Downs, a 12th grader. She was in his writing club after school. It wouldn't have been weird to see her there. Okay. Olivia. Her back was to me, seated at a desk in my line of view. This worried me. It was past 6 p.m., so the door was almost certainly there, and I did not like to think of a student in the same room with it alone. Olivia was not looking toward the door. She was focused on the laptop before her on the desk. I gently knocked in an effort to not startle her. She did not turn at the noise. I knocked again. Olivia did not move. There was no way she didn't hear. I grew concerned. Olivia was sitting straight upright, facing the laptop screen. She was not slumped over. She did not look sleeping or injured. I knocked again. Again, she did not move. Then I noticed just how still she was. Her hand on the computer mouse did not move. The screen of the laptop, which I could not see well around her, was not playing anything. I thought Olivia might have headphones in, but I saw no evidence of them. I began to wonder if she was even breathing. Her shoulders were not moving. She was not shifting in her seat. I knocked again. I banged on the door and yelled her name. No response. Something was wrong. I tried to turn the doorknob again, but it was firmly locked. I looked down to it for a moment. I wondered if perhaps I could kick the door in. When I looked back through the window, Olivia was standing up. Her back was still to me. The laptop was gone. I had not seen or heard her move. It was like the scene jumped. I yelled again. I slapped the door. Finally, Olivia turned around. Except, it was not Olivia. I cannot describe that face. She looked furious. I jumped back, startled. When I came back to the window, the room was empty. I entered. I am shaken. The door is unlocked.
Will puts the notebook down.
That was the last thing he wrote. They found him here the next morning. He was facing that wall, right where the door shows up. Nose to the wall. Obviously, there was no door there at the time. He was all shaken up, crazy looking, some kind of fugue state.
Once again, I glanced back at the Hat Man. I could imagine the poor, harried, tortured Beekman there. Finally snapped after a year of hell. Oh, where is he now?
Oregon State Hospital.
Jesus.
Yeah, he never recovered. They say he was mumbling about the door, opening it. Don't know if that means he just tried, or...
That last sentence. The door's unlocked. Did he mean the classroom door, or the...
I think about that all the time, dude. I'm pretty messed up about it. What if that happens to me, right?
Don't let it.
How am I...
Ask for another room, first of all. Block this one off.
I don't know if...
Dude, I'm saying this from experience here. Don't fuck around with this. I glance back at the Hat Man. His teeth are out. He's smiling. It could be a matter of life and death, Will. That door is the epicenter of some kind of messed up phenomena, and people can and do get hurt.
Can you help me? Talk to the others, maybe, or...
Not my bag. Sure. I'll do what I can.
Thank you, dude. Thank you. Oh no.
What's up?
It's 6.
His eyes go to the back of the classroom. All the blood leaves his face, and slowly I straighten up and turn around. The Hat Man's still there. He seems much taller than before, and his shadowy edges are indistinct, vibrating rapidly. He's thrumming, buzzing like a swarm of bees when a stranger approaches their hive. And next to him, in what used to be a blank white wall, there is now a door. I recognize it immediately. I've dreamt of it countless times in the past few months. Gray steel, silver handle, mundane. Or as far from mundane as you can get.
Dude, what are you doing?
His voice surprises me. I stop in my tracks. I've been approaching it. I've halved the distance between us. Shit.
Blake, don't go near it. Seriously.
I won't. But I will. I glance at the Hat Man. His thrumming increases. The sound like a rattle made of bone. The smell of ozone. Vibrations in the floor beneath my feet. The door looms before me. All the promises behind it. Feels like a dare. Feels like it all comes down to this.
Blake! Jesus!
I touch the handle. It's incongruous. Warm and fleshy, but should be cold and metallic. Like a handshake or a caress, it turns easily when I push down. Behind me, Will is yelling, panicked. I ignore him. I glance at the Hat Man's face, up near the ceiling. He looms over me, droning, predatory. He nods. I push. The door opens inward with a plume of stale air. Beyond, darkness. It's warm, but it's dark. take a deep breath, bracing myself, and I step over the threshold. The door slams behind me, encasing me in darkness. The utter absence of light. Wildly, I stumble forward, reaching for something, anything. A wall, a switch. Nothing. I swing around, desperate. Sure, I just made a fatal mistake. I trapped myself in a space between dimensions, a world of nothing but black. I was tricked. The goddamn Hat Man. His only goal was to dispose of me, capture me, or kill me. And like a fucking idiot, I ignored my distrust and played straight into his hands. Then my hands find a wall. Something that feels like a switch. I flick it. There's light. Blinding in the previously absolute darkness. I shield my eyes with my arm and turn. I'm in the classroom. Like I never left. I pause, blinking. Well, Will isn't here, but otherwise it's exactly the same. Behind me is the door out of here, the hallway beyond. To my right, at the back of the room, is the blank white wall where the metal door should appear. But it's not there now. Glancing at the clock on the wall, I see why. It's 5:55. I open the classroom door first, peering out into the empty corridor. Lines of lockers, loose paper on the ground. None of the lights are on. It's quite empty. A school building after hours. Through the window at the end of the hall, I see only darkness. Like it's midnight, not 6 p.m. I get a bad feeling about this place. I don't know where I am, but I don't think it's the real school. I'm hesitant to go exploring. I feel like I'll get lost here. I head back into the classroom. One of the overhead lights flickers and pops into darkness. Glancing over at the back wall, I see the doors appeared, like it was there all along. Sighing, I approach it. There's really nothing else to do. I turn the handle and I walk through. I'm in the classroom again, like a loop, except it's dark this time. Every light is out. Through the gloom, I see each desk is filled with a dark silhouette. They sit in silence, watching. Their heads twitch and turn to follow me as I head to the back of the room, to the metal door there. Gripping the handle, I glance back at the whiteboard to see a Latin phrase written, ad infinitum, onwards towards infinity. Ominous. Fuck it. Not letting myself back out now, I slam open the door and barrel through, only to have 1 foot meet empty air. Panicked, I scramble back, pressing myself against the wall. I'm on a small stone platform over a deep, black pit. Above me, curved concrete walls raise into the distance. Looking up, I can barely make out a narrow pinprick of light at the top, miles away. I'm in the center of a vast well, a hole. From the platform descends endless stone steps, winding around the walls of the pit. They're narrow, railless and damp, covered in dark moss or black mold. The threat of slipping, of falling, is not only present, it's likely. But the door behind me's gone, so I don't have much of a choice. I start down, one hand on the concrete wall beside me. I wonder if I am, in fact, down in the very hole I encountered at the beginning of this long and harrowing journey. This one is round, much wider than was described to me, but who knows? Maybe it changes as it deepens. Maybe it widens. I make my slow descent. I only hear my breath, my pulse in my ears, the occasional drip of blackish water from above. The bottom isn't getting any closer. God, I hate the heights. And here I am, barely balanced on a steep and winding staircase with no end. The void below seems eternal. If I fall from here, I think I'd fall forever. A sound cuts through the stillness, makes me jump and freeze. It comes from above, miles away. So faint I can barely hear it at all at first. But as it gets louder, rushing down in eternal velocity, I'd recognize it. A human scream. It's a male voice, a shriek of profound terror, keening and ragged. I look up to see a shape barreling towards me, falling straight from the hole's surface. I flinch back against the wall just in time. A split second later, he would have clipped me, carried me over the edge with him. He's flailing, grasping at the staircase, the walls. I only get a blurred glimpse of him as he passes, but I see the terror in his eyes, hear it in his voice. Then he's below me, shrinking into darkness, still screaming. Fades away after a few moments. I stand there, covering my breath. And then I hear another sound. The scrabbling of flesh and nails against the stone. It comes from the darkness behind me, back up the staircase. Something's following you. I pick up my pace, hurrying now, down into the darkness. I don't know what's down there, but I don't want to know what's behind me either. I'm going so fast I almost miss it. A gray steel door set back into the shadowy niche off into the stairs. I could have passed it easily, and then who knows how long I would have been descending those stairs. Who knows how long before that thing behind me catches up. I swing into the niche and push the door open. It takes a second to figure out my surroundings before I'm hit with a wave of vertigo. The world flips and swims, and I drop to my hands and knees. I'm in the hallway of an old house, but everything's upside down. The floor's above me, the doors inverted, the furniture stuck to the ceiling. Or maybe I'm the one on the ceiling. The metal door is ahead of me, upside down at the end of the hall. Incongruous in this place of Victorian wallpaper and wood furnishings, I crawl toward it. Not sure if I can stand, not really wanting to try. When I'm halfway there, I hear laughter behind me, and turning, I see that the hallway curves, a set of inverted stairs leading up to the ceiling. The laughter's coming from there. A woman laughing, and it's unpleasant, it's cruel. Then she speaks. "I'm coming up there." I make it to my feet. My head clips the corner of an inverted side table as I pass by, but I barely feel the pain. I fumble with the handle of a metal door, disoriented for a few precious seconds before I get it open. Behind me, a noise on the stairs. I glance back to see a pale hand emerge around the corner. Then I climb through the metal door and it slams behind me. I fall into the ground with a whump and lay there a few seconds, dazed. It's dark here, but sitting up, I get the impression of an old stone building. The musty smell of things long dead and forgotten. Under me are leaves, roots, vines. Tree branches snake along ancient stone walls, the forest reclaiming its territory. The figure stands at the far end of the room, barely visible in the darkness. I climb to my feet, groaning, and call out, "Hey!" My voice echoes around me. There's movement up high, along the walls, like an animal skittering along the vines. Or perhaps the vines themselves shifting in response. I approach the figure, which I'm starting to worry is an optical illusion. It's human shape, but otherwise has no distinguishing features, like a silhouette in the darkness. "Fuck!" I say aloud. Of course, another shadow person. I watch it bend down to grab something on the floor. When it straightens up, it brings up the lid of a hatch. And buried underneath the leaves, scattered the tile ground. With no hesitation, it jumps down into it. I move to investigate. The hatch opens into a well of darkness, out of which rises the damp, earthy smell of a stagnant pool of water. I glance around. Maybe I should stay here a while. Try to find a different exit. The vines and branches along the walls of this place shift. I hear them creaking, rustling, anticipatory. But then another noise comes from behind the building's walls. Dead, dry branches snapping off their trees and crashing onto the ground. Something huge moving through the forest. The steady clump hooves quickening its pace. Closer they come, towards me. My decision's made. Glancing to the sky, I silently curse everything that led me here, and then I take a deep breath and I leap into the hole. I hit water fast, so fast it hurts, and I'm taken under before I have time to react. It's bracing cold, so dark I can't even see the bubbles around me. I lose half my breath in an involuntary gasp of surprise, and my mouth is full of sour water, rushing down my throat. I need air, need the surface, but I don't know which way is up. I make a few mindless strokes in an arbitrary direction, only to find my ankle is stuck in something. Maybe seaweed. I tug, but it's not breaking. Panicking now, I blindly reach down and rip away the vegetation. My fingers find something else entirely. It's solid, slimy, thick. An old rope, maybe. My head pounds, oxygen depleting with every thump of my heart. I explore it by touch. It's oddly warm, somehow familiar, but I can't quite work out what I'm touching. Then the rope tightens around my ankle. A piece of it reaches up, strokes the top of my hand. I feel the blunt end of a nail, the fleshy pad, and I realize what I'm feeling are massive fingers. They transfer their grip. The giant hand latches around my wrist, and the rest of my air reserve is yanked out of my mouth when it drags me downward. I catch sight of something pale and huge beneath me, but I'm moving too fast, lungs screaming, close to passing out. I can't catch hold of my thoughts anymore. They're slipping so easily out of my head. It's pounding, throbbing. I need air. Something dark flashes in front of me, darker than water, and there's a tremendous jolt. My arm is nearly wrenched out of its socket as whatever has me let me go. Then I'm being propelled upwards, at least what I hope is upwards. Shadowy hands grip me on all sides, tugging my clothes, my hair. Water rushes around me, pressing on. God, I need air. I lose consciousness before I break the surface. Maybe not long before. When I open my eyes, I'm on the shore of a dark lake, surrounded by grass and reeds. I cough and gag and roll over and expel a stomach full of black water. Then I suck in what has to be the most beautiful breath man has ever known. I lay there a while, staring at the endless black of the sky, trying to gather my strength. But the edge of the lake, that thing in its depths, it's too close. I sit up, I scramble away, water squelches in my boots, streams out of my leather jacket. I shed both and leave them there. A windowless black cabin sits between the trees by the shoreline. One door in the rough wood facing the lake. You guessed it. Gray metal, silver handle. I'm exhausted, frustrated. I just want it to stop. But instead I go through the door. It opens into a hallway lined with doors and curtained windows. The architecture's old, elaborate, maybe Baroque. Dark silver wallpaper, tarnished gold moldings, old furniture, brittle and disused. The air feels very heavy here. Sounds are muffled, flat. My head buzzes with pressure of it. Feels like I'm miles underground, and piled up against every door and window are mounds of gray earth. I recognize it immediately. Lazare's death realm, the one she visited after her drowning. My heart leaps at the thought of her, then sinks instantly. Death realm, Blake, you fucking idiot. Am I dead? I wander the dark corridors for how long I don't know. They're endless, labyrinthian. None of the turns make sense. I try the old trick where you put your left hand to the wall and follow it, but after making 6 left turns and not ending up back where I started, I gave that up. Space doesn't work right here. The hallways change as you move through them. Everyone is different, and every so often you'll encounter what I call landmarks. A huge, foggy mirror along one wall in which my reflection is distorted, and other shapes seem to move in the hallways behind me. A wide chamber where a chandelier made of deer antlers slowly swings back and forth. A stained glass window depicting a woman lounging on a pile of swaddling fetuses. A locked black cabinet, from inside of which I can hear a soft scratching noise. A vast grandfather clock that ticks backwards. A dusty pile of clothes. A child's left shoe. I pass all of it. My socked feet barely make a sound on the patchy carpet. I realize, surprised, that my clothes are dry. How long have I been here? Around the next corner is a giant stone fireplace, elaborately designed. I move toward it, thinking of Lazare. She mentioned something like this in her transcript. Sure enough, it's packed with earth, filled to the brim. Something's moving around inside. Muffled scratching comes from the chimney. I watch with interest as a few clumps of dirt dislodge and roll down the mound. Then my eyes are distracted. Something's glinting on the mantel above me. I reach up and feel around for a second before my fingers brush something hard and metallic. Bringing it down, I examine it. A woman's ring. Delicate, silver inlaid with a small black stone. Made for a tiny finger. There's an inscription on the inside of the band. Ad infinitum. I know immediately that it's Lazare's. She left it here when she came through. I know it deep in my gut, and I think back to the writing on the whiteboard, the same Latin phrase. Does she have a hand in this? Is she guiding me somehow? I slid the ring onto my pinky. It hits the first knuckle and won't go down any further. But I like it there, even if she has nothing to do with all of this. It's comforting. There's a sound behind me, and I turn to see someone disappear behind the next corner. I follow immediately. Even if it's a shadow person, at least it's something. But I slid my thumb over the ring on my pinky in hope. When I round the corner, the figure is far down the hall, swallowed in the gloom. I jog after it, but it turns down another corridor. I took the corner at a run, only to nearly lose sight of it around another. I yell, "Wait!" But it does not. If anything, it moves faster. I give chase. The figure's always just out of reach, always a little too far ahead. At one point, I think I lose it, only to turn in place and see it cross the hallway at an intersection I already passed. I see what I think is a flash of blue hair as she disappears. Lazari! I call. I remember her, or at least I can almost do it. Almost see her face in my mind. Delicate, elfin, wide gray eyes. She needs to know. She needs to know I remember. I sprint after her down the hall, around the corner, and I skid to a halt. This corridor is the longest I've seen. The walls are bare, unadorned. No mounds of earth. And at the end, there's a single door. A gray metal door with a silver handle. Commonplace. My door. I jog toward it, breathing hard, rubbing Lazari's ring like a talisman. The end. I can feel it. I'm almost there. I reach towards the handle, I open it, and I go through. And this nightmare will end. I'm within a yard when the Hat Man appears. He's solid. Shadow-given form, towering towards the ceiling. His disturbing white eyes gaze down at me, 2 crescent moons in the darkness of his face. He's grinning, and he's standing right in front of my door. I stop before him, and breathing heavily, shaking. I don't want to look at him. His face scares me in a way not many things do anymore, but I'm determined to meet his eyes. Blink, he says. His mouth doesn't really move. His teeth simply part and the sound comes out. The voice you imagine when you think of death. Not that I think that's what he is. I don't know what he is. But that's what I think of. What? I snap. My voice is shockingly rasp, thick with tears. I'm appalled by the sound of it. But I refuse to let this fucker, this thing, that stalked me for years haunt me. Reaching into my head and planting the dreams there, I refuse to let it see my fear. Blink, he says again. His voice is gentle. It's pleading. We have much to discuss. Do we? I ask. Can we discuss you getting the fuck out of my way? I can, the Hat Man replies, his pupils rolling madly around those stark white eyes. But I fear it will be such a loss, such a waste. Agree to disagree. Are you not curious? The Hat Man asks. There's a current of anger in his words now. The clearly constructed mask of calm is showing cracks. I know you are. You've learned so much. And the things I can show you, the things I could teach, do you not want to see? See what? I will not say, but what you've seen already, do you not understand? This is only the beginning. I can hand you the keys to the universe. Peel back the curtain to the clockwork behind the stars. You have sought such knowledge, and you have only seen glimpses, seen meager, paltry, pathetic glimpses. All the same, I am proud. Proud? Yes, proud. I can think of no better candidate than you, my Blake. Candidate, I say. For what? For my family, the Hat Man replies, gesturing down the halls behind me. Glancing around, I'm startled to see dozens of shadow people lining the walls on either side of the corridor behind me, silent, watchful. I let my eyes travel up and down the formation for a long moment before what he's offering really hits me. Then I turn back to meet his blank, awful eyes again. Hold up, I say. You want me to join the ranks? I bark a laugh, disbelieving. To what? Become one of you? I am offering, the Hat Man growls, something that most humans would die for. I am offering you the chance to move between worlds, to see all, to learn all. He leans down to get in my face, his breath wafting against me. He smells like burning plastic and rotting leaves. His teeth are still shaped like a smile. His eyes are round and animate. Pupils moving and focusing. But this close I can confirm what I already know. It's just a mask. Just some perverse mask of humanity. Show some respect, he says. And give me your answer. I think back on the past 5 years. All the people I've met. All the people I've lost. All that I've learned. All that I've guessed. I think of what could be under Hatman's smiling mask. I think of all the things shrouded in darkness, never meant for human eyes. All the wisdom this journey brought me. All the happiness it took. In the end, I don't have to consider for long. Nah, I say. No thanks. And before he can respond, I thrust my hand forward, the hand on which I wear Lazari's ring. It passes through the Hatman as easily as he'd pass through a shadow, and I find the silver handle, and I open my door. So that's my final decision. The final threshold I crossed, and honestly, I think it was my best work. I spilled out into Will's sunlit classroom. He was still yelling, hadn't stopped actually. I'd been gone exactly 3 seconds. The door had vanished, though, so that was good. We didn't part on the best of terms. I couldn't really talk for a second there. I just mumbled something about the door, how sorry I was, and I left. Never looked back. I'm done. You probably guessed that. I've given up the search. I've got all the answers I could want. I've seen the dark underbelly of this world and the worlds beyond, and I've seen monsters. I've seen a glimpse of death. I've seen enough, in short, to know what I really want. I'm going back to New York. I liked it there. I'd like to give someone her ring back. If you're in the area, keep an eye out for me. It won't be hard to spot. Not because I'm anything special, but for the first time in years, I don't think I'll be alone. I think I'll have a girl beside me. A girl with bright eyes, and blue dreadlocks. A girl whose memory is now somehow clear in my mind. And maybe, despite all of it, maybe we'll look happy. Hey there kids, it's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I wanted to tell you all thank you so much for listening to tonight's story, or watching tonight's story if you're on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, that means you're probably on the podcast that's available on iTunes, on the Google Play Store, and is now actually available on Spotify, and doesn't use as much data. So, hey, that's a thing. If you guys aren't listening on YouTube or Spotify, then I have no idea how else you could have found me. Unless you found one of those books on Amazon. You know, the CreepyPasta Collection, Volume 1, Volume 2. Those are things too. Oh well, I don't know how you would have heard me there, seeing as this was recorded like 2 years after those came out. Well, anyway. Thanks for listening, folks. And sweet dreams.